Okay, folks, I need a motion to call the town board meeting Thursday, July 25th, 2013 to order, please.
So moved.
And I'll second it.
We'll salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a moment of silence for the military that's serving in this country and out of this country, and also for the remembrance of John Quinn, who passed away July 13th at the age of 92. He will be greatly missed by the town. He did a lot of service for this town.
Sure did.
Thank you. The emergency exits are on our right, your left, and the rear of the building. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Reamer? Here. Councilwoman Prodi?
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Here.
Supervisor Flood?
Here.
And Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
On their way.
Ben Schwartz is the first one. Ben?
I just had some questions for the town board about the rail trail extension. Just because our farm is directly adjacent to where the rail trail is going to be put. And I guess just around the timeline as it stands right now, and then also we were planning to do some construction near where the rail trail might be, so we want to make sure that before we put the work in that they're not going to come with the construction equipment. And I guess we wanted to know how far off of the tracks they're going to need to install the rail trail. And so even if that's something we have to worry about at all, I don't know. Those are the things.
Well, the final drawings are done. They're being reviewed now.
Okay.
We're setting up a meeting with CELS, our engineering firm, and some of the other parties involved. Hopefully next week or so. So as soon as we know, we'll let you know when it's going to be, and they can show you where you can build and where you can't build, as long as it's on your property.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. But I think that they got permission to have 30 feet into the property to construct. I think that it's the Zanino property. It's the.
I don't think the right-of-ways are done yet, as far as.
Oh, so that's still under negotiation.
Yeah.
Okay. So should I just come back here, or?
I'll send it to you when we know where we are with it. It should be soon.
Okay.
It should be soon.
So maybe we'll just be in touch by email.
Sure.
And I could even take a look at the plans maybe when they're finished.
Absolutely.
Great. That sounds good. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Sally?
Sally Nelligan Leaf. I want to thank the town board for finally passing the resolution to clean up 218 North Main Street, Wassay. It wasn't noticeable from the road, but it was right next to my daughter and son-in-law Marilyn and Todd Yerkes' property, and my mom, B. Nelligan, lives in the back, and I was there every day, and it was just a complete mess. But nobody saw it from the road, so it wasn't important to too many people. So I want to thank the town board for passing the resolution, but I want to thank Victoria Parodi and John Fenton for pushing the town board to pass the resolution. And I want to know now if this is setting a precedent so that if John needs money to clean up properties, if he has to go every time he needs to clean up the property to get permission from you, or he can just call you and you guys can pass a resolution, or does it have to take months on end to get it through?
One of the delays, I believe, was him trying to find somebody who would actually do it, trying to get bids together. I talked to John today before the meeting, and we're going to look at a simpler process to, to advertise better when properties as they come along.
Okay. And I think the people in the town of Amenia and village of Wausau, this is not just vacant properties there's a problem with. They should, take pride in their properties. I know how the economy is, and there's not a lot of money out there. But I mean, you can keep your yards picked up and mowed, and Welch's is real reasonable, and there's a place down the line that will take junk metal and whatever, and they'll even pay you for it. So there's absolutely no reason for anybody's property to look a disaster in the town of Amenia or Wausau. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
I would like to second that. You did a wonderful job there. It's unbelievable, the change in it. The people that cleaned it up, I don't know who they are, but they certainly did a beautiful job. I'm sure there are quite a few other places in the town that should be cleaned up also, but evidently they haven't come forward and pushed for it. But this was really a health problem. And I'd also like to ask why it is that we have to transfer funds at every meeting. If we
Well,
have
For the
a,
cleanup of properties, I mean, there's no
Transfer
line.
funds.
There's no line that says we need to, and yet we're responding to the public and we have to make changes to the budget.
okay, that's what this.
That's one
re-
example.
Yeah, well, that I can understand.
Right.
But within the budget, I don't see why we have to change.
Flaw. You have to change it. You have to take money out, you have to move money in.
It
Right.
just-
If you get a
just
grant,
seems
you have to add money to the income and you have to take it and add it to the expense line too. I mean, all of those changes need to happen.
So next year, put a line in.
We
for
do.
that.
Yeah, absolutely, but what's the number? How many properties? That's the $64,000 question.
Right.
We don't know.
John isn't here, but would you
Well,
convey
ultimately,
to
the
him?
people are gonna pay it. We're not paying, the taxpayers aren't gonna pay it.
Right.
It goes onto the tax bill, but we pay it up front.
I know how it
So,
works.
okay.
Bill, I can explain a little bit of that from the past, where we didn't have.
Could you get up to the
money.
microphone?
Yeah, come on.
You can give out more tickets.
Arlene Giuliano, just speaking as past town supervisor, and before some of the laws changed in regard, or some of the rules and regs changed and or needed to be more reinforced according to controller's office, and this is in response to Tom's statement here. Why do you have to make so many changes? We didn't used to make so many changes, and it got to the point where New York State Office of the Controller wanted to have more definitive ways to follow the flow of cash. We also, so it's not something that, that's been thought up by our supervisors or board, Tom. It's basically been, to my recollection and to my knowledge, that rules and regs changed and they have to be more responsive to them. And we used to use a contingency line a great deal, and you may not be able to do that. So I'm sure they don't want to change the lines all the time either, but you have to do it.
That was all.
That's it. Town clerk's report.
This past week, BAS has given us an update on the town clerk system. The system now allows for us, if the town chooses, to give seniors a discount for dog licenses. Currently, if your pet is spayed or neutered, it is a $12.50 charge. If it's not, it's $20.50. So that's just a topic I wanted to bring up to the town board, that if you're looking to offer the seniors in the community a discount, this would be one cost savings for them. It could be a percentage, it could be a dollar amount, but it's something for you to consider. The minutes for
We have to pass a resolution?
You'd have to pass a resolution, so I don't know if you want to talk about it, in the upcoming meetings, if it's something that you'd like to look at. Last year, we permitted 57 dogs, and it was $587. So I don't know what you're looking to do. Of that fee, only $1 goes to Ags and Market for each transaction. The remaining balance is yours. It's just something out there to let everyone know.
Well, I'm in favor of going to $12.50.
How many people are seniors in general? Are you seeing a preponderance, or
There's not,
it's hard to tell?
it's hard to tell because we don't,
Of 57,
we don't
yeah.
currently keep track of if you're a senior or not a
Okay.
senior.
How many dogs
A
are
senior person and a senior
licensed?
dog?
57.
57?
57.
What?
I'm not keeping track of the age of the dogs at this time. It was just a number that we've taken in thus far. But it's something, if you guys want to, I printed the reports real quick, something, I didn't know if you were interested in doing.
I think it's worth pursuing, sure.
Okay.
So the current one is $12.50, is that right?
It's $12.50 or, yes.
Or $20.
Or
for the
$20.50.
unspayed. Okay.
Is that a resolution you can draft?
I'll
Or Ian?
share it with Ian and give him the information. And I don't know how you wanted it, what type of a discount you want to offer.
Oh, I thought $12.50 was a discount.
No, it is $12.50 if
Oh.
it's spayed or neutered. We currently have two different prices, spayed or neutered versus not.
But either way, $1 has to go to ag markets.
Yes.
So
So
that's
I
our
just-
minimum cost.
Mhm.
And how many did you do, 57?
Yeah.
Is that how many dogs are currently licensed, or 57?
For last year, I pulled up last year's report. Just to kind of see where we were in 2012. And of
sounds
that,
awful low to me.
it's very low.
It is low.
It's very low. That's several months ago I made the announcement, if you have a dog, you're welcome to stop by the town clerk's office. It's very simple to register your dog. You bring in your last rabies shot information, come in and see me. I need your dog's name, and then the vet would have all the information from the vaccination. I keyed in the computer, and your dog is registered here in the town.
So that's 57 from last year?
How many did you get?
Since then, we've gotten 3 new dogs since my spiel a couple months ago.
Could I recommend that you put a slide up on the town channel for that, Dawn, or anything?
Registering the dogs.
Yeah, just to help get the word out a little bit more.
All right, do you want to have a discussion about this, or you want to?
I guess I would propose like a $10 and a $15, cap for seniors.
Sure.
Some money has to go back into animal control, right? So,
Yes, if you took off because Patty and I were
Is that what you're
going
thinking?
between $2.50 or $5, if you just wanted to make it an easy number
exactly.
to take it off,
$10.
So pay $10.
And then senior citizens would get a discount in addition?
No, that
What
would
do you
be
say?
That would be their
discount.
discount, it would
Oh.
be
So
$10.
instead of $12.50, you pay $10 if they're spayed and neutered. If they're
And then
not,
18?
you do 15 or 18. It does-
18?
I suppose 18, yeah, because
Make it 20 if they're not spayed.
it is 20.
I mean, you should maybe do, you want your animals spayed.
Well, we do too, yeah.
It's entirely up to the board, how you'd like
Do you want
to.
to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we provide a discount to seniors for dog permits of $10 if they are spayed and neutered, and leave it at $20.50 for,
Bring it down to
bring it down to
15.
$18 for unspayed and unneutered pets.
I would second that. I would think also, thinking about people who have more than one dog, say, hunting, a group of hunting dogs, or it seems to me they should get a group discount if they're seniors as well. It gets very expensive, and a lot of the elderly, enjoy their animals.
But they wouldn't be likely to have a group.
Yeah, I don't
They
think people on a
sometimes do.
fixed income really
Well, I
have
know
more
out
than
in
one dog.
Smithfield, we have groups, yeah,
Who have more than one.
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, so it gets pretty expensive.
It
for
is
someone in
expensive.
there.
This is the least of their expenses if they're doing 2 dogs.
Yeah. So I think we ought to think about a group discount. I mean, an elderly group discount too.
Well, if
You
you have
know,
more
people
than
who
one, you
maintain
could get
their
the
animals.
senior discount, but then the seniors would get an additional discount. I guess then you'd have to do it as a percentage, you know? 1 or more
Yeah.
dogs, you get 10% discount. If you're senior, you get an additional 10% or 10%.
Yeah, I think we ought to offer that. It came up in Smithfield, I know,
Really?
talking about people who have,
Why don't we
Yeah.
just do,
running the house.
pay the ag and market fee for each additional dog? So $1 for each additional for group amounts and be done with it.
Well, that would be a loss of revenue.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't think we should do that. I
Okay.
think a percentage is probably better.
Yeah, I think a percentage is better because we do have to,
Deal with it.
compensate the
Deal with dogs.
dog control person in some way. There has to be some balance there.
So I would change my motion to say seniors can have a 10% discount on their fees associated with dog permitting and an additional 10% off if they have more, and then 10% off as well if
For
they
how
have
many?
more than 1 dog.
More than 2?
More than 2
one?
dogs, well, more than 1 dog. That would mean that if you have 2 dogs, you can get a 10% discount, which is not a huge, on your total bill for the 2. So if I had 2 dogs at $12.50, that would be $25. And I'd get a 10% discount if I had 2 dogs.
Yeah, or more. On the total number of dogs, yeah. I mean, there are some in my neighborhood who have 5 and 6 dogs.
Right, each one would get a 10% off.
Yeah.
For,
Okay.
for tonight, I was just looking for the seniors, because we're gonna have to have Ian make that resolution, and then
Yeah.
maybe he can include others.
Ah.
The way the system was is if they're gonna be eligible for a senior discount.
I see. So we're just dealing
I
with
wasn't-
seniors at this
I
moment.
wasn't looking at multiple
Yeah.
dog owners. I can ask BAS if we can do something in the system for multiple dog owners. Because
Yeah.
what's gonna happen is once I key it in, I key each individual dog in as its own entity.
Uh-huh.
So the system won't be able to read that unless they
Right.
create something separate for me, for them being
Oh.
a non-senior. It was a section of selecting if they're a senior and they're gonna show.
I think we ought to explore that.
Explore.
I think, well, as I say, in my neighborhood, there are, a couple people who have several dogs, running in the hounds or any of that. And there are people who keep them for different clubs who actually raise them, so it could be a savings for.
Some kind
For
of
them
group,
as well, like,
a group discount for kennel owners or kennel operators?
Kennel is a different.
It's not a kennel,
Category.
no, it's,
So
where,
how many dogs do they own, these people?
it's 5 or 6, yeah.
Well, it's not an onerous fee. I mean, if they're taking their dogs to the vet and they're paying times 5 or 6, those are big numbers.
Yeah.
These are not big numbers compared to what they're paying at the vet. I mean, that's my opinion. Is that if they can afford 5 or 6 dogs, they're in really good shape because that's a huge financial commitment. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of dollars of vet bills associated with that.
Oh,
And
no.
this is $100 for 5, for 6.
Well, how difficult
dogs.
is it to have another line for,
I can call BAS and see what they can
They-
do. That
she has
wasn't
to
part
see
of,
if
that wasn't part of the,
system has
yeah, see if the
capability.
system, if it's something we can do, because it came up when this new licensing came into effect for some of my neighbors
okay.
who they're elderly and they have dogs that they manage and keep.
And then what
for-
specifically you're looking for, that way we can let Ian know. I mean, right now, we've kind of gone from a definitive price to a 10%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what would make the difference if you're, and it just happens to be the example she's using, they're already seniors. So they're
Right.
already going to receive that discount. So now we're talking about a group discount of individuals.
If you've got 5 dogs at a 10% or 20% discount, it's $50. It's not if they're all spayed and neutered, and hopefully they are, because they'd have a wreck on their hands if they didn't. I don't know. That doesn't seem onerous to me. A 10% discount if you're a senior.
And then I can inquire about the
So it would be on each dog then? I mean, you want,
Yeah.
that's how we could
Right,
leave
the
it.
overall
Yeah.
bill would be
Okay.
reduced
that's
by
fine.
10%.
Because each
Yeah.
package treated as its own individual
That works.
transaction. It was
That
just a
works.
matter of checking the box saying, yes, you're a senior, and you get the discount. I just
Okay.
needed to know
Someone
what
want
the
to make that
discount
motion,
was.
and we'll start the
So go back.
resolution.
Yeah.
Vicki?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we give them a 20%, do you want 20 or 10%?
10.
10% discount for seniors on their permitted license fees.
For more than one dog?
Well, they would each be individual
They will each
anyway.
get
They're
the
each
10%.
individual,
Yeah,
so
so
each transaction
It's not
will
a
get
matter
the
of a number
10%.
anymore. Yeah. Each individual.
Okay, Councilman Reamer, are you still seconding her revised?
Did I second it? Yes.
Did you
I
second the
seconded
first
it,
one? Okay.
yes.
Okay, so Councilman Reamer?
Yes.
Councilman Brody?
Yes.
Councilman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Doyle?
Yes.
Supervisor Flood?
Yes.
And the only other matter tonight was that the minutes for 6/27, 7/2, 7/9, 7/14, and 7/16 have been circulated with the, and I explained to everyone earlier, with the 3 corrections. That's all we have in the town clerk's office tonight.
Mike, Main Street grant?
Hi, everyone, Mike Haggerty, grant writer. I've been focusing on the Main Street grant, we've been meeting every week. The town board has been meeting every Tuesday. We've been meeting with landowners, trying to hammer out this $195,000 grant. The streetscape portion is coming together very nicely. There's a final concept plan that I submitted to New York State for their approval. A question came up at the last meeting as to whether or not we could get reimbursed if the project is beyond the $25,000 that has been approved. I asked Erin Kinney that of Office of Community Renewal, and she said if we wrote a letter, if it was important to the town, they would consider increasing the streetscape amount, which I thought was encouraging. I also sent to her a request to get approved for the streetscape project, to get approved for being reimbursed for the landscape architect's fee of $5,000 as part of the $25,000. But as I said, she is willing to entertain increasing that amount, especially if we're having difficulty gaining acceptable building renovation projects. If we were to fall short in the building renovation line, we could do a budget amendment to increase the streetscape line, she said. So I'm still working with her closely. I've been sending her background information on all of our projects. We right now have 3 projects. The Amenia Library is looking to improve external lighting, storm windows, and the general appearance of the library. And that they have signed their agreement. They have submitted all their paperwork. The grant amount is $10,000 for their project. The maximum amount they can be reimbursed is $10,000. I'm working on finalizing the numbers for the other 2 projects. I did send to Erin Kinney all the expenses that Mr. Patel has expended, and also all of Claire's expenses. So Claire Houlihan's building, she has invested let me just, excuse me for a moment. Yeah, Claire has been awarded initially $21,200 grant from the town, from the Main Street Subcommittee. She did request that she could be considered for additional grant when she heard that another landowner withdrew and we may be soliciting new projects. She did document an additional $39,972 in expenses for the new roof that she put in, new electrical work, and interior painting. She's also getting a second quote to paint the entire exterior. So all of those expenses added up to about $61,000. even if we were to increase, if the bid for the exterior painting is higher, the maximum amount she could get, if it's 75%, is approximately $60,000. So I'm sure she would be happy if the amount was increased. And just doing the math and looking at the ballpark figures, we already have $10,000 for the library. If we were to increase her grant to $40,000, that would be $50,000. There'd be $110,000 left. Mr. Patel has documented $71,000 in expenses for work that he has done. I submitted that to Erin. I'm hoping to speak to, I did call her, she wasn't available, but I want to get approval for those expenses, a bulk of them, so that he can be reimbursed. He also wants to do an additional $22,000 for a boiler, carpeting, and interior painting. So that would bring his amount to $93,000. Plus he estimates that, well, he had estimated that the facade is in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $50,000. If we were to give him $20,000 for the facade, and he were to get, say, $110,000, I think that would be a sizable amount. So that's what I was thinking in terms of the grant numbers. Awarding Mr. Patel $110,000, awarding Claire $40,000, and keeping the library at $10,000. If Mr. Patel does not materialize or there's money left over, I would recommend increasing the streetscape amount, because I understand the town has already expended some money for the planters and stuff. Why not get reimbursed for that if you can?
Have we already expended money for the planters?
And we're going to continue to meet every Tuesday. I'm finalizing the scopes of work for the projects and getting all the background. We need to get project setup forms. They can't be completed until we get SHPO clearance. I did reach out to SHPO. I have a contact now, the guy who runs Dutchess County. So I'm going to try to expedite all the SHPO letters just by working with him directly and emailing him these letters. We should get approval. The renovations are not altering the historic nature of these buildings. So then we have to do an environmental checklist for each building. And that's really the bulk of it. Have the grant agreement signed. The library signed theirs. I believe the town attorney is working with Claire to gain approval for her grant agreement and has sent a sample agreement to Mr. Patel. We just have to come to a conclusion as to how much he can get, and I should get an answer soon from Erin. She's going to need more documentation of his expenses. He's going to have to give us copies of checks. Claire may have to do that as well. So I'm going to keep working on this. Since we have 4.5 months to finish the grant. Erin would like a timeline, which I'm working on. In the next week, we will complete the setup forms, the environmental checklist, the SHPO clearance, that type of thing. In the next month, we will have signed grant agreements. We will have bids from all the contractors approved and get the work started. Once we get all the paperwork in place and get approvals, these projects should be able to be done in the time that we have, and we should be able to reimburse as well.
Could be done this year?
It has to be, yeah. But although and I think we are showing good faith effort, there could be an extension if for some reason something comes up. They told me that too. So we're not going to lose the grant. We just need to act on this quickly, and we have been. So that's really, I believe, the latest on Main Street. I'll tell you as soon as I hear back from Erin. I'm sure I'll speak to her before our meeting next Tuesday. And I'm submitting a claim for $4,000 of upfront administrative costs. Do you have any questions about that one or any of the grants? If you wanted to add anything to the grant list, I know, Vicki, you did get a new grant for the dance program, so I'd be happy to add things to this list. This is just what I had, an update of the various grant projects.
Well, most of these are very old, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 are already done.
Which ones?
Town.
Yes.
Town
Well, they were done this year, yes.
I'll say that's an old one. Dance program, that's an old one from last year, 2012. Right, so they can come off the list.
But none of them have been really completed, such as there's still money in the Fountain Square grant. Greenway has been drawn down. NYSERDA has been
The
completed.
Fountain Square grant is done.
I don't think there's any money left.
There
in
isn't
that.
any money left.
There isn't, okay, so I'll take them all.
Well, back
The
to
dormitory authority, we're still in process on that one. We
I
have to
did-
ri-
the dormitory authority
We have
did-
to have the right-of-way agreements, I think, before we can get that.
Pardon me,
Rail to
Victoria?
trail.
Pardon?
We have to get the right-of-way agreements before
Yes.
we can get the dormitory authority money.
They've been in touch with WSP Sales, they have a copy of the final concept or the design plan.
Okay.
They did ask me a question last week about how much the design is going to be. I wrote back and said it's $95,000 because we want to be reimbursed the full $95,000 fee through that grant, and the Greenway, we've already been reimbursed, and then the TEP grant.
So you're following up with them and doing whatever paperwork is
Yes,
required?
yes, I am. And also, Sherry gave me a new bill that I think you're going to pay tonight for WSP Cells. So the last two bills I'm going to submit to the DOT to get reimbursed. We've already been reimbursed $41,000, so I'm going to submit the second claim for the Trail to the Train. So you'll be reimbursed for the design.
Okay.
Do we have a revised budget and the scope for the the streetscape portion? Because I talked to Crystal and she thought she had not yet received that.
I sent it to Erin.
Okay,
Yeah, I did send it to Erin, the concept plan, and I wrote her a letter asking to gain approval for the $25,000 streetscape project
Okay.
with that concept plan that Peter Karras did.
Okay.
Yeah, I made
And
it
the
clear we want it to be.
description of the scope?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, the concept plan itself was really the scope. I have given them, the scope of work is to, do the benches and the plantings in downtown Amenia. But when I hear back from them, they have it now. They have enough to approve it. Now, I did attend a workshop at Dutchess Community College a couple of weeks ago about some upcoming grants that may be of interest to the town, the consolidated
Where are we
funding.
with the kitchen grant?
before we leave the Main Street, can I just mention a few other things? Is that I did talk to Crystal and she said that from her point of view, so I didn't talk to Erin, so you guys talked to Erin. I talked to Crystal and she said the intent of the Main Street grant was to focus on the buildings, and that the streetscape was kind of after, kind of the nice icing on the cake, and that we should really focus on the buildings. Now, we're moving ahead beautifully, I guess, compared to the buildings plan. Crystal suggested that we not get ahead of ourselves, that we get the scope of work approved, but Peter suggested that we go ahead and advertise these bids to be advertised on Monday, August 5th, 2013, for the streetscape. And Erin mentioned she was concerned that we were going ahead and paying for things, buying planters and such, yet we hadn't had the eligibility determination and that sort of thing. So I'm getting a lot of caution from Erin, but it sounds like you had more green lights.
Well, she's,
From Crystal, and you had more green light from
no,
Erin.
she said the same thing. All the stuff has to be submitted to the state. They make the
Ideally.
final determination
Right.
as to who's going to get what.
So we
Yeah.
shouldn't be buying anything necessarily, or
Well,
bidding things out until we hear back from
Because that's not
them?
part of the grant. If we buy
Oh, you're
benches-
doing it, buying it on your own
Correct.
budget?
Right.
So the town was
That's
okay
what
with
I
that?
understood too,
Right.
that
That's what we
it was
voted on.
something that the town we have to participate anyway.
Right.
We don't have to match the streetscape. I thought we were just paying for the 25,000. But we're gonna go ahead and additionally pay another
That's what we voted on, right.
10. Oh, okay, I understood that to be a reimbursable
Right.
cost.
No.
We're gonna use the rec director line to pay
Correct.
for
Buy
that.
the pots and the
Okay.
benches.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good.
But they do have the right to oversee everything, correct? Once
Yeah,
everything is
which
done.
I'm trying to get their approval
Right.
for all of this, the formal approval. Crystal did participate in the conference call, though, with Erin and Bill and me.
So do we go ahead and make a motion to advertise for the bids? Can that happen contiguously? Because Peter is eager to stay on his timeline. But if we haven't received an eligibility, we can always get the bids in and then,
Right, it's a matter of getting the bids in. If we wait until everything is approved, and then we miss the window to
Okay.
get everything scheduled. It does say in the bid package, we have the right to refuse any and all.
Portions of
So-
it, and I talked to Crystal, and she said that's absolutely fine to leave
Yeah.
out parts.
So I think in order to keep Peter Karas's schedule, and he has a really tight schedule.
Right, he wanted tonight to have us move on this,
Yeah,
so
so we authorize to advertise.
advertise. Right.
I think you should, because you're not committing necessarily, you're just advertising. I mean, but
Right.
I still think they're definitely going to get approval for this. I mean,
And at least we'll know what the numbers are that we're working with.
Right, right.
So
And
I'll
also-
make a motion that we advertise to bid for
I-
one day only.
I would think that some of the text can come out of that, so the cost of the advertisement is less.
I don't
It's
think we're
quite
going to
verbose.
pay for all of that,
No, we
are
just
we?
put a
We're just going to
generic
put
ad
it,
and-
see our website
Good.
for the full language. We're not going to publish all of this.
But go to the
No,
town
it's a
clerk's
CD,
office.
right?
That's the way I understood it, that to be the bid that we're gonna.
You're going to publish all of that?
That's what it stated
Well,
in
he's got-
Peter's,
That's the language that he's submitting to you to be.
and I think
Right.
it's
Because the bid
excessive.
specs are huge,
Did you see
but they need to
Yeah.
know the parameters.
That's just for, what are you advertising for? What?
Bids are sought and invited for the town of Amenia East Main Street Streetscape Improvement Project as set forth in the specifications prepared by the landscape architectural consultant to the town of Amenia, Taconic Site Design and Landscape Architecture. Separate bids will be received by the town of Amenia Town Clerk's Office at the Town Hall on or before 10 a.m. on Friday, August 23rd, 2013. Does this entire amount of text need to go in? Or is
To
there
advertise?
a way to say, see the website for the full? I thought that's what we did in the past. We said, go to the website, you know,
Go to the
for
clerk's
additional,
office,
for the
yeah.
full bid specs, or pick them up at town hall, or we'll mail them to you, you know.
No, they have to pick it up because they have to sign in.
Okay.
They have to sign a sheet with all their information, email and all of that.
I mean, normally you can have a bid packet available at the clerk's office, and that's usually what you do. How much,
Is that what we do
do you have any
last time?
idea how much?
The way Peter and I had discussed it at the last meeting, was that he was gonna send me the bid. We just received this today, so we were unaware that it was 2 pages long. That he was gonna send me the bid. What we're gonna do with the bid specs this year is where he's gonna provide them to me on a CD. And then anyone that comes in can pick up the CD, they're all on PDF form, and they would go out and print them, because it's a pretty decent sized packet. So, and he was also gonna make them, per this announcement, they're also available online. But the only ones that were gonna be official were the ones that came in, signed that they received the CD. Should there be any amendments, updates, changes, only those individuals will be notified. Anyone that goes online and just downloads it won't be made aware should any changes come out. I mean, he has it pretty clear in there what he was looking to do. He was trying to save the town the cost of having to print this very detailed packet out, because he has it very clear, I mean, they're in color, the actual designs, how everything is to be laid out. He was trying to do the CD format.
Is there a way of summarizing this to say that we're seeking improvements for, you know, a paragraph worth of work, whatever we're saying to our grant administrators? There's benches, there's plantings, there's trees, there's, you know, some optional lines, and here's where you go to pick up the full description of the guidelines.
I think prevailing wages is mentioned in here too. All of that information needs to be there, but maybe it doesn't need to be quite so long. I don't know if it could be abbreviated.
Don't you have a fee to pick up this packet?
There was no fee. That was the purposes of him putting it on a CD. So there would be no reason to have to charge a $10, like what they've done in the past, the $40. We were trying to alleviate that fee when the individual came to pick it up. Because the CDs, he can burn CDs for pennies, he said.
Do you know, or have any idea what the cost, what the estimated cost is?
For the legal?
To run 2 pages?
No,
To 1
I'm
and
sorry,
3/4
for the
pages?
project itself, for the 4.
Oh, about
The
$40,000
planters, he said,
as of the
were
last.
$1,000 a piece.
It has nothing to do with the planters. Right?
Well, he's got, am I right, just the placement of the planters?
It would be 5 park
Okay, planters
benches, 4
are supplied,
concrete unit
so you're
paver
not-
bench pads. You know, it's more specific, I would think. Some kind of, you know, a contractor would need to know, okay, I've got to deal with pavers, I've got to deal with benches, I've got to deal with installing, you know, these concrete. They have to install the planters, right? Even though we're buying them. X number of trees, plantings.
What's it called? Anybody, it's a
They usually
50
charge like 75 cents per inch, I think, or so, you call, they're not that
Because it
expensive.
states on there, and I don't know what I missed this past Tuesday, so I don't know if you discussed it, but now it says Monday, August 5th, our paper runs on Thursday, so I guess we're not using the Millerton News, were we switching to the Poughkeepsie Journal? I don't,
Well, we can change that, I would think.
because,
Poughkeepsie Journals is expensive, there's no doubt about it.
and if you were to choose the Poughkeepsie Journal, the other option would be to advertise as an online advertisement and not,
Right, that's what we've
not
done in the
running it.
past. We've done that in the past.
We did that for the last,
Yeah.
Why don't we take a crack, Peter and I, at reducing the language down, run it by you, is that sufficient information? And on Tuesday morning, we can decide if we are ready to roll with this to be published. How's that?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So,
I think the only
Withdraw
thing
my
that,
motion.
what we were discussing at the meeting is you just need to authorize me to go ahead and do the advertisement once the bid is set, because I have to put it in.
And I think that
costing.
was more the intent to bring it up at this meeting,
Not,
is to authorize.
What you
To
could
me.
do, you could just authorize the advertisement subject to
Yeah.
some changes.
approval by town attorney.
approval of the language.
Landscape architect, you know.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we authorize the town clerk to advertise bids are being solicited for this East Main Street Scape Improvement Project, subject to approval by the town attorney and the town board.
I would second.
Councilwoman Reamer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Crody,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger,
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle,
Yes.
and Supervisor Flynn.
Yes.
Okay. You all set?
I guess so. I was just mentioning that I did go to that workshop on grants. The consolidated funding application is due next month. The state is offering all of their grant programs, including Main Street, New York State Parks, NYSERDA. There is a grant for geothermal retrofits, cleaner, greener communities, it's called. It's a new grant program.
Is that one application for any at
Yes.
all?
Well, it's
Yes.
it's a one portal. You still have to do an individualized application for each project. So, like I did already register the town of Amenia, thinking that you do want to probably pursue at least one of these opportunities.
Well, there's multiple, we've talked about it, there's multiple grants we want to pursue. You have the kitchen, the heat and air conditioning, whatever way they want to go. There's something else, the windows, if we do
Windows.
those. The kitchen, we said, right? There's something else. If there's any funding for any of the other construction here that has to be done.
Well, I would recommend pursuing the NYSERDA grant for the geothermal. If you have all the expenses, if you have the, it sounds like you did at that presentation, you have a budget, you know how much it's going to cost approximately?
Oh, we're gonna do the sidewalk to Freshtown with.
Right. The sidewalks on 44 have to be replaced from to the ball field. Well, there's none to the ball field, so we were notified by an attorney, local attorney, that their issue with the sidewalks, they have to be done.
It really
Sidewalks
is our
might-
expense.
they,
It is.
There's no direct grant for sidewalks. There are grants, like from New York State Parks, that could pay for sidewalks as an ancillary part of a larger recreation project, or perhaps the Freshtown connection could be done through the TEP grant, which is due also in September. That's a big grant. That was the one we got from the Trail to the Train. That's now also coming up, and I know Gretchen has offered to help work on that, which I'd be happy to work
Wouldn't
with you
that
on.
include, you could include the,
Both sides.
the sidewalk there, and because that is part of your connection from the downtown affordable housing area to the, you know, if we're gonna put in for that section, you might as well put in for this section, because it's only a 20% required match from the town.
Right.
That's the cheapest grant you can get. You know, that's the best.
The only, I mean, I'd be happy to do it. I think we can do it. There could be a fast turnaround to apply, because it's due August 12th. And we'd need letters of support. We would need a town board resolution authorizing the grant. And also, I would need help from an engineer to come up with cost estimates.
And that's gonna cost something.
Is there an
August
engineer
12th
I
is
could call
practically
upon?
here. The
Like
problem
Peter?
is, we have a lot on our plate. I mean, you don't have time because you're working on Main Street grant. That's flat out, right? I mean, that is a lot of work.
It is going to be, but I mean, I don't think I should, be, I
And you
would
can
try.
also take on this August 12th deadline?
I would like to, at least for one of the grants. I think it would be worth it, maybe the town hall grant, if you really are serious about the geothermal, because if you have budget information for that, it would be a good one.
We have some preliminary budgets, we don't have anything that's set in stone, so I
Well,
can give you those.
It'd be fine, it'd be a start. I would also, did you want to, I did do a draft resolution for that. I mean,
For the NYSERDA?
Yeah,
I talked to NYSERDA, there's not a lot of money, but you can apply.
well, right, we're going to apply for existing facilities. There's some money there you're eligible for. I mean, it's probably worth pursuing.
So
Sounds
you
like you
think
do.
we're eligible for this project, and how much is the town responsible for of the total project?
I think it's 80/20. 80% grant, 20% local match.
That's the TEP?
That's
Or-
TEP and this NYSERDA grant.
Oh, NYSERDA too.
We certainly have to do geothermal or something.
Right.
We do have to do something.
Yeah.
Did you make that resolution for NYSERDA or for the geothermal?
Well, both. It's a resolution authorizing the town of Amenia to apply for a New York State grant to retrofit town hall with the geothermal heating and ventilation system.
That's the biggest expense. I think we need to focus on that. I mean, it's just so, what was it, 90 degrees in here, those hot days. It's unbearable.
So how competitive are these grants? I mean, is it worth our time and investment of working on this?
Well, it is first come, first served, but we have a pretty good record with NYSERDA. We did get that one grant and completed it. I would think definitely have a good chance. There's not many town halls that have geothermal.
I'll make a
And we-
motion, we go ahead with it.
We do have
Right.
reports, and we've invested.
Yep.
Yeah, but
In
what is
re-
the limit of NYSERDA? As far as, don't they have a limit that they will only reimburse so much?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to find out some of those
Yeah,
details. the
because
exact-
if they only, reimburse
It's up
like
to, no, it's
$50,000, it doesn't
a
help us.
big, there's millions of dollars they have, I mean, throughout the state. It's not small amounts. It's a big, it would be
I think we
large
should- I
grant.
should-
But it's allocated to certain things, so we need to know how much is allocated
Yeah, like
for that.
geothermal.
What's the
What if-
typical grant cost? What is a typical project cost that would
Yeah.
be eligible? So if the geothermal is $500,000, would they give us all but 20% of
Right.
$500,000?
See, that would be
Is that
worth pursuing.
a fair question?
Yeah, I mean, I can follow up on that, but why not? Do you want to authorize me going ahead with some of these, at least pursuing the preliminary? Sure.
Yeah.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
We don't lose the New York Main Street grant. I mean, that focus has to be there too.
Right.
So if you think you can manage both and not lose the bird in hand of the New York Main Street grant,
No, we're not.
chasing after the bird in the bush, then I would think that's a good, I mean, we need to have that.
I just want to bring the opportunities up too to you. This is the one time the state is offering these
Yeah,
large
it's
grant
not gonna be
programs.
around.
And I went to the workshop.
Right.
I thought I'd report back to you. I mean, it is exciting that there still are grants out there, really.
Right.
Greenway, we could apply for again as well, so that's due in September.
And what about the kitchen?
Well, That's an ongoing grant deadline. I haven't, I'm working on it, and I know it's important. I'm going to submit that to rural development. That is.
But what information do you have so far?
I have a sketch from Leo. I think I need a little bit more budget numbers as far as the equipment.
We have a number for the equipment that
Yeah, I thought
Rudy
had-
Eschbach, he did that printout from the restaurant, up in Albany, facilities, people who gave an estimate of the type of equipment that we would need there, and then also the cost. So I don't have a copy of that, but
Well, I can reach out to Rudy and work on
Yeah.
that more. I have been focusing mainly on Main Street, so I
We
can.
know-
Is that all you need then, is just that?
Yeah, I have the forms. It's really just applying to USDA, rural development. We can get up to
Yeah,
25,000.
that one's ongoing, so there's not a deadline.
No, but I did attend a workshop that Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation held on the various programs that USDA provides, and I met with George Pop, who runs that program. We can definitely apply. It's a good project. I will need a town board, I'll have to get a formal resolution for that as well prepared.
So you'll have that next time for us?
Yeah,
Okay,
at the next meeting or the next workshop.
the next workshop.
Okay. Now, if
So,
I
we
can
should
probably.
move ahead on that.
You're meeting every Tuesday, too. Is it okay to maybe bring, if we need to pass a resolution
Yeah,
on
I
grants, to do it
But that's,
on those
it's
Tuesdays?
an advertised meeting, open to the public.
All right.
and it's on grants. Could you put a column called deadline, or is that under your status? I just don't see any deadlines, so it would be really helpful to have yet another,
All right, I'll redo this form. It sounds like I have to update it a
just
little bit.
another
get
one
rid of-
that
I
has
will.
just deadline really clear, so that we know what time frame we're looking at.
All right.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
and then
alright.
the other thing on the Main Street grants is we need to get a waiver, some kind of waiver contract for people to sign to have trees put into their property,
Oh.
written in plain English, not in legalese.
I'm
sorry.
glad you brought that up, Gretchen, because I brought that to Erin Kinney's attention yesterday when I spoke to her about the planting on, and, because we were under the impression that we had to get these property maintenance declarations. However, she was saying that most of the time, towns take over that responsibility of maintenance.
Yeah, I think
Especially-
it should be outside of the grant if we can.
So like the town would sign it.
Town would enter that in with the property owner, and it really
Individually.
wouldn't hopefully
Right,
get
and they would
involved
still
in that.
need a waiver for the town to do it, yes? Do you keep asking for the information to be collected? Are you now saying, no, people don't need to sign off on having a tree planted in their lawn?
I'm not
Well, I guess it depends on whether the town's doing it or whether volunteers are doing it afterwards. But is
I'm
my
not sure what
thought.
the waiver is. The declaration is part of the agreement that people accepting the funds, they've got there are some restrictions on the property for a period of 5 years. Is that what you're referring to, Mike? There's a
Property
declaration-
maintenance agreement, yes.
Yeah, but I don't,
No, that's not all of it. The problem is we're going to plant trees on other people's property, that we have the right to go in and maintain those trees is something that we have to come up with. That's the agreement you're
okay,
looking
so
for.
you need
That is
some
the
kind of
agreement
an
that we're looking
easement
for.
or-
Right. I think most of them are on the state right-of-ways, but there still has to be some kind of a waiver that if we plant the trees.
So it would be more of an easement?
Well, if that's what you're talking about, planting trees on
Somebody's
private property,
Right.
and the town is going to be maintaining the trees, that would be an easement.
I don't think that's what we were hoping for, because that's more complex. That's deeds, that's the whole thing. What we were looking for is that John Fenton had said that in the town of Wappingers Falls, if they have a volunteer enhancement committee, and if they plant a tree on it under the town auspices, that there's like a very, not a deed restriction or anything like that. It's simply an agreement that the property owner says it's okay for the enhancement committee and volunteers to come on and water and prune and take care of that tree. So I was imagining it not being as part of this grant application, but in fact being outside of that, just being the sort of thing that if the enhancement committee wanted to put a barrel, you know, near Four Brothers, you simply say, you know, this is ours. Is it okay if we
Well, it's just that
plant and water?
you were asking for the form and
John Fenton
Main Street
said that it
grant
was a good
for the
idea.
whole project and everything, so generic, you were asking for the form, so I'm just following up on that.
Right, but I was just clarifying that I believe that it wasn't as part of this grant, but more of an informal agreement between the town and the property owner.
Which still needs to be done. Yes or no?
Well, if we get to that, because if it's more, already we're looking at $40,000. If we decide to opt out of the trees, then we don't need all those property agreements if we don't have the money to do
And
it.
John Fenton
So you
was
still
going
need to hold
supply
on
a
this.
copy.
I think
Then-
so. I think we deal with that, and only the things that are absolutely required by the grant at this point, and we see what the bids come in, and if we can afford to do the trees, great. If we can't, we just pull back and do it at a later time, or have a nonprofit come in and take care of that.
Are the trees going to be owned by the property owners or by the town?
Well, now we're not doing trees.
Okay.
It would be in the grant specs, and if we can afford to do it by the town, we would do it with the contractor who puts in the successful bid. But we have the reserve the right to take it out
The trees
if we
like
can't
where that
afford
were
it.
put on Mechanic Street, they're on private property.
Some of it is.
So there, but there's no maintenance agreements with those trees.
Mm-mm.
So how does that work?
I mean,
I agree
legally, the
with
way
the
to do it would be an
Property
easement.
owner's
You could
fine.
do an agreement, if whatever you're putting on the property is gonna be owned by the property owner, then I don't think it necessarily has to be an easement, you could just do an agreement.
Oh, yeah. I don't think any property owners wants to give an easement for a tree on
No,
their
but John
property.
Fenton did say he was going to supply,
But it's generic language. It's not,
Generic,
right.
right.
It's not involving a deed
it's not,
restriction.
it wasn't an easement, he was talking
Right.
about volunteers putting trees on and then volunteers maintaining them. Because
Right.
you have someone who's not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, that's what Kevin was talking about, was
Right.
just a little generic kind of, it's
Yeah.
okay for us to come in and put the tree
But it's
on
been
there.
done
and
before in Wapanews.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
But now no trees, so no form necessary
Okay.
at this point.
yeah.
All set?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for that
We have a
clarification.
resolution with the, Vicki, you have that resolution? Are you
Yeah,
gonna read that? Would
I
you read
can-
that
I
with
can do
the,
that.
Water,
what?
Bill's calling for water department, people water, they're not with,
I don't have a water department. You wanna have a water department discussion? Sure. Sure.
Usually they're
Okay.
May Jones, Water, Chairman, Water Committee. We met July 17th, and we discussed the backflow program, and that was supposed to have gone into effect July 18th. And there are 5 businesses that are still outstanding that haven't complied with it. And we would like the board to establish a fee or penalty for them until they comply with it. We suggest that maybe $100 for the first month, then the second month, maybe $200, and just progress it each month until it's cheaper to get the work done instead of paying the penalties. And it should be enforced by the town code enforcer. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Can I
Okay.
just ask on that, have the businesses been given the opportunity to have multiple vendors supply them with the backflow?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Have the businesses been given multiple vendors to choose from to
They can
do?
pick anyone they
Anyone
want.
they want. That's,
No, I had received complaints that they didn't have the opportunity. I
Oh.
was wondering if that had been corrected. That's why I'm asking.
I thought it was in the letter, that it was their choice.
It was their
And if they didn't
choice.
comply, then we would do it and fine them.
Thought I'd ask the source.
Yeah.
And they can pick their own New York State inspector to do the inspecting.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. So are you going to pass that, or?
You need a resolution to do that?
You could do it by motion, just impose what you want the fine to be, for failure to comply with the requirement to install the backflow preventer.
I'll make a motion that we assess a fine of $100 for the first 30 days
Yes.
of commercial property owners not in compliance with the backflow preventer, or backflow preventer, I guess, and then $200 for the second month after the first 30 days.
Right, 60 days and then.
30 days would start, the end of 30 days would start the $200 fee, correct? And then $200 a month for,
And then the next month, $300. So in other words, it's progression, more or less.
okay, and then at 90 days, it would be $300.
Yes, and so on, until it's cheaper for them to do the work than to pay the fine.
And you want to go like 4 months and more, or is that it? You want to keep increasing it by $100 per month?
Until they're willing to do it. What do you say to that? Until it's cheaper for them to do the work, to comply with the law. Instead of paying, instead of paying the penalty.
Seems,
Can you make it a progressive fine?
I mean, there's a point where it becomes excessive,
Okay.
Absolutely.
and you have to be concerned about that. I'm not sure, $100 per month.
For the
but if it's
first
more
month,
than- so
$200 for
$100
the
First
second.
month,
200
200 for the second month, so basically $100
increase.
per, the
Increase
to-
per month.
Yeah.
I think we have to revisit it
Yeah, I
after
have
3
to look,
months.
because you get into
And
a
then-
situation where it's excessive and considered to be, you have usury laws that you can't penalize people. There's got to be some rational basis to it.
So is the 300 excessive? Or
I
can we
don't-
just cut off, to
I mean,
revisit it at
there's an
90 days?
expense to the town, because the town's subject to fines if you don't do this?
Yeah, we're done. We just have to have an inspector.
Well, right, but if you don't do, there are some
Yeah,
requirements on the town.
Yeah, the town's required to make sure that the businesses comply.
Yeah, and I just don't know what the penalty is to the town if the people don't comply.
But we don't want to find out. That's why we want to put the fines in place.
Correct. But you're asking whether, I just don't know whether 300 would be considered excessive or not. If it can be justified.
Is it $3,000 to install this thing, they'll pay the fine?
Yeah, there's some consideration to that. I mean, I'd be reluctant to go over $300. The thing is, you're talking about something that's cumulative, that after 3 months, it would be $300 per month. That seems like a pretty, because then you're, every 3 months, you're close to $1,000. Off the top of my head, I just don't know. I'd have to look into it.
Can you look into it for us? And
Sure.
we'll see where we are.
Not unless you want to make it $100 a month. To me, it doesn't matter.
I mean, certainly above 300, I think that, I get the sense that would be excessive. If you want to, if you could put it off until your workshop meeting or your, I guess your workshop meeting, I could get you an answer tomorrow.
Well, could we, since the deadline was July 18th, can we make a motion to make it $100, if it's not put into place by August 18th? I mean, could we do that and then we could build on it, or you could look to see what else we could do?
You could impose a fine and then you can, I don't see why you can't change the.
How many of them are in not?
5.
There's 5. One will be in compliance by tomorrow, so there will be 4.
And they can request an extension, right?
And they should be informed
That's not right.
by the, you have your town code enforcer.
So, since we're after the July 18th deadline, could we do a motion that would say if they are not in compliance by August 18th, then they would be subject to a $100 fine?
That sounds good.
$100 per month.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As
And then you
August
can-
18th.
I can look
This
into it.
way,
You can always
this way,
change
we're,
it.
This
this way
way,
we're giving them a
they will
month from
be
the day that
informed.
it was due.
They have to be informed. And I believe the town code enforcer will do that.
Right.
Since he
Well,
does
we,
the
you know, if we
penalties.
pass the motion to authorize a $100 fine if
But I think
they're
he's
not
already
in
done this.
compliance by the 18th, then, you know, he could send out a letter to that effect,
Okay.
you know, once we
Okay.
pass the motion. And then we can add, you know, on August 18th, we can see where we are.
Okay.
Mine are done, by the way.
Good. That's one less on the
less.
list.
That was a motion?
What?
Did you make that motion?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Reamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Flood?
I'm going to abstain.
So what we need you to do is contact the code enforcement officer, give him your list of names, and let them know what the motion was tonight, that they have, so he can let the people who are delinquent and do not have this installed know that they will have until August 18th, or, you know, or a fine will be levied.
Good enough. Okay. And we would like permission to put water meters in Beekman Park and the town hall. The reason for this is to monitor for leaks. So if it increases the following month, we know there's a leak somewhere. That is the reasoning for us to put the meters in.
Do we have 2 meters?
Pardon me?
Do we have meters on hand, or do we have to go out and buy?
We have to buy them, because I think they require a larger meter than the normal meters, because there's a larger building. Marco would be more,
I brought one back, so there's one in Sherry's office.
yeah, I know, I think Marco has that
Did
one.
you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should have one here. We did have a water
Oh, the
leak.
yeah.
Yeah, in the last couple of weeks, and we really didn't know about the leak until the water kind of bubbled up to the
Because,
ground. So I think it would be a good monitoring device for us.
And the same thing with Beekman Park. I think there's one in the firehouse already, so.
Yeah, maybe there's one laying around, and just have to get a bigger one for our use, right? We just
I don't
have
know
to
what
buy
size
that.
you need. Well, the one was the commercial one that I brought back, so.
Should be fine for town hall.
Right, I would think so.
Yeah, we've got a lot of faulty ones, but I don't know where we're at with that.
So we need to make a motion to authorize the water operator to install.
No, we just can't even just install it.
You can do it by motion, sure.
At Beekman Park and,
Okay.
Could I just add something to that?
could you go up to the
Actually, there's no
podium,
public comment at this point. This is,
That's good
please?
point.
This is the
there's
water
no-
committee.
Yeah, but he's
What
not-
money
he's
goes to
not-
the water committee?
He's water committee.
All right.
Every user in the water district should be water metered. Now, whether you want to bill them or not, that's the discretion of how you want to handle it. But that way you can monitor the system, you can get data on the usage of this throughout the system.
How many properties are not metered?
Practically all of them.
Practically or all? There's a few that are not.
Well, they're not all because the town isn't, and Beekman Park isn't metered.
Yeah, it would be the town, okay, well, so we need a motion to authorize meters being put at
I'll
at
make
the
that motion.
town hall.
No,
And
no, the other
Beekman
thing
Park.
we're having a problem with is the data.
I'll second the motion.
Periodically, a guy goes down the street and reads the meters remotely, collects the raw data, and it seems to be a little fuzzy how that data is compiled to end up with the bill to the customer. This came about because we tried to figure out how to simulate a change in rate for different, using different scenarios. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any data available. Nobody quite knows how it ends up from the raw data to the time it's compiled. Apparently there's a problem with software. I don't know, you were there, Victoria.
Reading the data from the meter?
Yeah, well, the question is, the company to put the water meter in has a program, but apparently there seems to be some problem with
Accessing it.
with the computers in the town and putting together the data. I'm not sure exactly what the problem is, but there definitely is a problem.
Well, we just paid to upgrade the system.
So it all worked together.
So it all worked together, so. is there
Well,
something-
we asked for data. Basically, what we're looking for is either account number, user, the account number, the gallons used, and the category for that, so that we could go through and work various different changes in the rate, so that it can be fairly allotted to each one of the categories and users. And we weren't able to do it.
I think the problem with that is that there is the water district clerk. She is new, and this is the second quarter that the billing has gone out late. So we would like someone from BAS to come down and train her. And once she's trained, perhaps we can get the information that we needed to adjust the water billing. And
Yeah, but the training's done by
come down
phone.
from BAS. I would like it if you call me, and any of the members of the water committee would come down and see what it's all about.
There's a different problem, but exactly what it is, I can't piece it together.
So maybe once she knows how to.
Well, she's been trained, so that's been done.
When?
Well, months ago, they did it, they do it over the phone.
Then why was the billing
Well,
late?
why
I don't
didn't
know.
water billing go out late this time?
I have no idea.
So, I don't know.
I mean, there's something came up that even had something to do with Windows 7, I don't know. The program that was previously used was for Excel, I don't know.
Or when the
Well, that was
upgrades,
a battle we had a year ago with Marco over this computer thing, and we went and spent
We
the money and we
authorized
bought
money
it.
to upgrade it. We
Upgrade
thought
the
that would
system.
work. That was recommended by Bass. I think Marco needs to explain to us why the fix that he proposed isn't working, or if it is, why we're still not seeing the data
it's
that
not
we
the
need.
fix he proposed, the software was updated,
Right, but he
But it
proposed that we
wasn't-
update it. and
but
we
it wasn't
authorized it.
tested.
It was tested.
No, it wasn't. Or the billing wouldn't have had gone out on the 17th instead of the 1st.
So who needs to test it?
It was done.
Recently, it was tested.
I believe when the new system was put in, when it's installed, it was
That was
tested.
a long time ago.
See, the other thing that
So
popped
was the
up,
dummy
Since a
billing
year
done?
ago.
when
Yeah.
we get raw data
No, it
on
wasn't.
these, from these meters, and the meters are read, some of it's in error. Before the bill goes out, somebody who's competent should go down and check each one of these readings, or scan the readings. When they find that there's an error, they should have to be able to make a manual adjustment. And apparently, I don't even know whether they can do that.
Someone has to be trained.
That's why we should have sent it out.
Because it's not working. It worked when we had, what do you call it?
Jane?
When she was doing it, we never had any any problem.
Yeah, but a lot of meters were never read.
They were never read.
They were never reset.
Well, you see, that's a problem when
Right.
a meter fails and they replace the head, you get some kind of a crazy reading on the data. Now, does the customer bear that error? If they go in and they replace the head, the person who sends the bills out, or that knows the system, should go down and scan these things and manually adjust it.
Now, have you been able to get the report that you need to assess whether or not the rate should be raised?
No. That's what started this.
I mean, I've been after that since December.
And Karen can't do it?
I think,
Karen can't not do it? All right, well, BAS can do it. Have you spoke with, she spoken to BAS? Because I've spoken to BAS about it, and they said they have the program there that can do it.
well, why don't they do it?
That's all. Has anybody spoken to them?
I don't know. That's what we're trying to find out.
No, we thought BAS was talking with Karen.
I'll call them tomorrow,
Okay.
and we'll see where we are with it.
And you should be able to simulate with the,
Correct, there is a program that does that. They
That's
said
right.
they could do that.
so that you can
Correct.
adjust the rates.
Okay, I talked to them months ago about that.
Okay, well, that's basically what I'm trying to,
Okay.
okay.
Yep.
So that's about it? Otherwise, everything's okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't believe we voted on the motion to add the meters.
We did not.
Oh, well, no. Yes, you didn't take the roll.
Program.
What's that?
Maybe we need a new program. In other words, a new, whatever you call it.
Billing
on
program?
the computer,
Software?
Brand new.
You need new software? Or-
maybe you need new software.
Well, I thought the BAS was the new software, so.
No, there's another system with the meters. They didn't work together. So we
Right.
upgraded the new system to work together.
Now,
Yep.
now you said that this happened a month ago? That BAS spoke with her?
No, I spoke to BAS trained her when she was hired. They train over the phone. They don't come
Okay.
down here.
Well, she doesn't know what to do.
Well, I'll talk to her and we'll see where we are with it.
Okay.
You know,
And,
maybe we should sub it out to another company.
pardon me?
Maybe we should send it out to another company that knows what they're doing with it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
She has done water billing for another.
Correct. Other,
towns,
right.
yeah.
Yes, but not with this software.
But it's not that hard a deal, that's what I understood. So we'll see what the issue
Should be
is.
solvable.
Right.
Where are we with the motion?
I'm going to ask Councilwoman Weimer how she would like to vote.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Supervisor Flood made the motion and Councilwoman Hinselberger seconded the motion.
Okay.
Do we all? Councilwoman Brody?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hinselberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle? Motion to authorize the water operator to install the water meters at Town Hall and Beacon Park is what we're voting on.
So the Marco would do that. Okay, I will do that.
Supervisor Flood?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
You have the resolution for Mechanic Street?
No parking on Mechanic Street, intersection of Route 343. You know which resolution?
40, it's going to be 48.
Okay, resolution number 48 of 2013, introduction of local law establishing no parking area on Mechanic Street at intersection of Route 343. At a regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Amenia, Town Board, held at the Town of Amenia Town Hall on the 25th day of July 2013 at 7:00 p.m.,
I make that motion.
Councilwoman Perotti, seconded by Councilwoman
Second.
Darlene Reamer, moved the following resolution to introduce the proposed local law to be known as Local Law Number 2 of 2013, entitled a local law amending Chapter 113 of the Town of Amenia Town Code by adding a new Section 113-6, establishing a no parking area on Mechanic Street. Now therefore be it enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Amenia as follows. Section 1, Statement of Purpose and Intent. The Town Board has determined that the parking of vehicles on the east side of Mechanic Street from the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343 to a point approximately 107 feet south of the stop sign at the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343, has narrowed the travelway in that area of Mechanic Street and consequently restricted the turning movements for vehicles entering and exiting Mechanic Street. In addition, the town board has determined that vehicle parking on both the east and west sides of Mechanic Street within 20 feet of the crosswalk at the intersection of Mechanic Street and 343 poses a hazard to pedestrians as well as to drivers and passengers of vehicles on Mechanic Street. Therefore, in order to make it safer for vehicles to turn onto and exit Mechanic Street near the intersection of Route 343, and to improve the safety of pedestrians, drivers, and passengers of vehicles on Mechanic Street near the intersection of Route 343, the town board has determined it necessary to prohibit parking on Mechanic Street near the intersection of Route 343. Based on recommendations made by the engineer for the town highway superintendent, and the New York State Department of Transportation, the town board has determined that it is in the best interest of the town of Amenia to prohibit the parking of any vehicles along the east side of Mechanic Street from the intersection of Mechanic Street and 343 to a point which is 107 feet south of the stop sign at the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343, and along the west side of Mechanic Street from the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343 to a point which is 40 feet south of the southern edge of the pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343. The town board has determined that one parking spot will be allowed between the point which is 40 feet south of the southern edge of the pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343, and the telephone pole located approximately 62 feet south of the southern edge of the pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343. The town board believes that prohibiting parking in the above designated areas will make it safer for vehicles to turn onto and to exit Mechanic Street and will improve the safety of pedestrians, drivers, and passengers of vehicles in the area of the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343. The town code of the town of Amenia is hereby amended by adding a new section 113-6 to chapter 113 to read as follows. 113-6, parking prohibited along Mechanic Street. The parking of any types of vehicles, including but not limited to automobiles, trucks, tractor-trailers, campers, buses, mobile homes, motorcycles, and/or scooters, shall be prohibited on Mechanic Street at the following locations. Along the east side of Mechanic Street from the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343 to a point which is 107 feet south of the stop sign at the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343, and along the west side of Mechanic Street from the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343 to a point which is 40 feet south of the southern edge of the pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343. And 3, the parking of no more than one vehicle shall be allowed on the west side of Mechanic Street between the point which is located 40 feet south of the southern edge of the pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343 and the telephone pole, which is approximately 62 feet south of the southern edge of the pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343. B, the town highway superintendent shall install and maintain appropriate signs along Mechanic Street to indicate that parking is prohibited along the areas set forth in sections 113-6A1, 113-6A2, and 113-6A3 above. The town highway superintendent shall paint the curb yellow and maintain the curb as such yellow color along the areas set forth in sections 113-6A1, 113-6A2, and 113-6A3 above where parking is prohibited on Mechanic Street. Section 3. The local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the state's Secretary of State. Pursuant to the Municipal Home Rule Law of the State of New York, it is necessary to hold a public hearing upon this local law. Councilman Perotti offered the following resolution, which was seconded by Councilwoman Reamer, who had moved its adoption. Whereas on July 25th, 2013, the town board introduced this proposed local law for the town of Amenia to be known as the Town of Amenia Proposed Local Law Number 2 of 2013, entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 113 of the Town of Amenia Town Code by adding a new section 113-6 establishing a no parking area on Mechanic Street. Be it resolved that a public hearing be held in relation to the proposed changes as set forth in the form of a notice hereinafter provided, at which hearing parties in interest and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard, to be held at the Town Hall on August 8th, 2013, at 7:00 p.m. And that notice of said public hearing shall be published in the official newspaper of general circulation in the town of Amenia by the town clerk at least 5 days before such hearing, and that such notice shall be in the following form. Notice of public hearing. Take notice that the town board of the town of Amenia will hold a public hearing at Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, on August 8, 2013, at 7 p.m. on proposed local law number 2 of 2013, entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 113 of the Town of Amenia Town Code by adding a new section 113-6 establishing a no parking area on Mechanic Street. Take further notice that copies of the aforesaid proposed local law will be available for examination at the Town of Amenia Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, during normal business hours on all business days between the date of this notice and the date of the public hearing. Take further notice that all persons interested and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard on said proposal at the time and place aforesaid. The foregoing resolution was voted upon with all councilwomen, councilmen voting as follows.
Supervisor Flood?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Brody?
Yes.
Councilwoman Reamer?
Yes.
Enhancement Committee?
Kevin's here.
Hi, Kevin Casone, Amenia, Chairman of the Enhancement Committee. I wasn't even going to make a report. I came running down here because I heard the words, no trees. Okay. We have to make up our mind once and for all. These trees are going to be planted throughout the 5 hamlets. Then we were going to concentrate them as sort of an add-on, a more bang for the buck in the center of the hamlet. Fine. Now I'm hearing no trees, which I heard that several times tonight. Only 2 days ago, we were going to use the Friends of Amenia money held in CDs and the Garden Club of Amenia accounts, and we were going to be buying all those trees, so I'd have to change the order I already made with Sam Bailey, and all the other plantings, and take that out of the grant. So now you have another $9,000 free. I mean, if you already bought the planters, and I think that was roughly 20 or 17K-ish from the 45, now we're down to 25 or 28, you take 9 out of that, you're right in budget again. So I don't know what people are saying about no trees. I thought this was all solved less than 48 hours ago. And here I am again wondering what the heck's going on. I mean, I promised people trees, 38 or 39 trees were ordered for the outer hamlets, and I had to eat crow and go back to those people and say, no, the consensus of everybody is that we should concentrate downtown. So now I'm going to start working on that. Sam, I don't even know if he's going to answer my calls anymore because this has changed so often. Now, why you would want to say no trees, it has nothing to do with the grant. Nothing at all. In fact, it's making the grant more doable. It's taking money, out of the grant. So I don't know why people are banding about the phrase no trees and making me come down here. Ian, I need a waiver to let, or whatever you want to call it, so that people, forget maintenance. That's years out. I don't care about maintenance, watering, trimming, pruning. That'll come under other contracts in future years. I need something. Imagine me with a clipboard knocking on somebody's door. Hi, can we plant a tree on your front lawn? I need something they can read in a few seconds and understand and say, yes, why, I'll gladly take that. Not something that makes them think they need a lawyer, which is going to make them say no. It has nothing to do with the grant. There's everything. It's going to be these private funds now, and I thought we were going to be conjoining these private funds and the public funds in the grant until I hear no trees. So are these Friends of Amenia funds going to be used to take that line item of Peter Karras' about $9,000 in addition to work with, conflate with this town grant? Because I thought this was all decided Tuesday, and now it's getting all wishy-washy. So, did I just misinterpret? Can somebody please say
I think the
what we're doing?
president should say what they'd like to do, because I'm happy, and I talked to the grant people. If we leave it in, it's fine. They will go ahead and pay us for design that includes the trees as proposed. They're happy to have the town purchase them, but they won't exceed the $25,000. So we're going to add as an additional line in our bid specs, so that if the whole streetscape comes in at $25,000, including the trees, we'll just do it as all part of that project. or you guys can come in and do a part of it. But if you don't put anything in writing, it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to include that in the grant, because grants require, we need to have the lowest bid, we have to, we can't choose Sam Bailey, who has the trees, it's very complex.
Well, no, wait, that's, okay. The grant, we were going to have them, I spoke to Peter, we were going to have him do the digging, because no volunteer or somebody who's donating their time
That makes it very
isn't
hard.
going to take on the liability of hitting the mislabeled water line. There's blue paint over there, so they think it's safe to dig here. Lo and behold, somebody sprayed the paint in the wrong place, and we've dug up a water line. I don't think we have any buried electric. So Peter said, yes, under the grant would have the professionals with the liability, with the insurance, they'd dig the holes. But that almost 9K, well, Peter's number was over 9K, I think, a little, whatever. Let's just stick to 9K. One's a little above, one's a little lower. Peter's estimate and the money we have to spend. One's a little higher, one's a little lower. But we'll say 9K just for the ease of conversation. That the Friends of Amenia funds would be buying those trees. So there's no lowest bidder. We can go to Sam Bailey. That's what we discussed Tuesday. I mean, it's not going to come through the grant. We're just saying with that grant money, which was the whole idea of my suggestion in the first place, because initially we were going to be planting these trees all around the 5 hamlets, and I got people to accept them, only had to have to go back to them and say, oops, no, that's not happening anymore. Now I'm hearing, oh, if we're not going to do it, then I have to go back to them and say, oops, yes, you can have them. I'll get doors slammed in my face. My words being whittled away into nothing.
Concerned.
I'm not done, please.
Oh, sorry.
Please, I'm sorry too for, kind of ran here a little too fast. Maybe that's got my blood up. Sorry, Vicki. But we need to have a plan and stick to it. Now, the idea was, when I first offered, part of the 9K, because we were putting them all around the town, was if you're a few $100s short, if another pad and bench and planter costs $4,500, for example, and you were like $300 short, what a shame to not get a planter, because volunteers can't pour concrete, put pavers in, put a bench in, put a planter in. So with these funds, we would put a tree in. Now there's one less tree in that you're taking out of grant money. Now you have, now you've freed up $500. Now you can put that last bench in. I'd rather have more hardscape, and everybody agreed. It made more sense with the grant and you guys and a professional landscape designer and professional contractors, properly insured, to do the hardscape. A volunteer can plant a tree, they can't put a pad in. And I thought this was all decided Tuesday morning. And now you're saying, it's got nothing to do with the grant, the trees. It has nothing to do with the grant, by the way we decided, except for the fact that it frees up $9 grand for more hardscape. And that the grant would have to pay for the digging of the holes. That's all we would need. And I would still need a waiver, Ian, even as a private group. We're still going to go onto somebody's property. I guess I'd be signing it to the Friends of Amenia or the Garden Club, who's ever going to do it, or to Sam Bailey, or to all those involved in planting these trees. But the holes will already be dug. We need the grant money to dig the holes. And this was for all the horticultural, too. This was for all the plantings that were going to go in the barrels. This is what I thought was clearly decided on and unanimously agreed to at the Tuesday morning meeting. And now I'm hearing something else. And I can't keep hearing new and different versions of what I think is done, settled, over. So I'm done. Please explain where I'm wrong.
I would say you're right in that we pull the trees. We can go ahead and put it out to bid and see if we're short $500 or something like that. We can work out those details. But the likelihood is that we would, well, first of all, Peter Karras said he thought about that more, and he thought that we could not just dig holes for trees that may come later, come at the same time, we don't know, but leaving an empty hole dug for trees that we're not sure what trees are going to go in there is problematic. I don't think that the grant will reimburse us for digging holes. I agree. I thought with you that we have the right contractors, we have everybody there, we have dig first. I agreed. I thought that sounded like the most efficient use of everybody's time, money, materials. But he started having second thoughts. He said, he wasn't at that meeting. So he said, I can't just dig holes, have that part of the bid specs, have contractors do all this work, and then dig holes for trees that are going to be planted later, maybe 2 days later.
Well, the other option was, could he do the research and mark a spot, pick a, spray paint can, and Mark, we can't dig here, and he does all the utility
Yeah,
research and
I
all
think
of that.
That we could do.
If he can accept the liability. If Sam's gonna give us a discount on the trees,
Don't you just
I
call
suppose he could
before
do,
you
it's
dig?
not in his bid.
Call before you dig,
Still.
has to mark the tree, mark it.
Right. But I didn't want somebody who's going to practically be donating his services, giving us a discount on the price of the trees, when it was going to be just Friends of Amenia and the Garden Club putting these around the 5 hamlets. I didn't want him taking on any of that risk. I didn't think that was fair. He's already doing so much. If he's even still doing it, because we had to change that, and he's been keeping these trees alive there in his nursery. But to your point, Vicki, the one extra tree, if we needed one extra, giving you one tree would let you buy a whole nother pad, planter, bench, whatever, grouping, then would do that. But then I thought, at sort of your lead, we were going to not put it in the outer boroughs. We were going to put all the trees here, all the almost 9K from the leftover from the Friends of Amenia that's been held in trust by the Garden Club in their bank accounts would be spent on trees and plantings right here on Main Street. So there is no if there's some leftover scenario. That was the scenario, in May. That's not the scenario now.
So the question is do you want that in the bid specs or not?
I don't know what you mean by that. Do I want it in the bid specs?
So
What?
the
Buying
contractor who
trees?
comes and picks up the bid specs, they'll have very specific directions about what he should bid on and what he shouldn't. If we let them bid on it as an optional line item that we can accept or not, depending on how much money we have, then you could make the decision at that time. So a person bids on the hardscape, the plantings, and you can take out the trees and the plantings and leave that to the garden club later.
Okay, but
if you
I
want.
thought Tuesday we took all the plantings, trees, the horticulture, anything that was a living plant. I thought we took out of the grant
think
on
it was just the
Tuesday.
trees.
I'm really pretty sure. I
It's up to
got
the
back
whole
up.
town board. I don't have the authority to spend garden club money.
Well, you
or
were the vice
town.
president of the Friends of Amenia. All
Right, but I don't own
I'm
it
not even.
anymore.
All right.
Possible. It's
I'm
up
not
to you
even mad at
guys.
it, Vicki. I'm mad at, and I don't know, if you change your mind, sorry, just one last thing. If you change, and I'm not angry with you, but this is like my 5th iteration of this. I feel like, Pinocchio on the ends of the marionette strings, and I'm not even being danced over something nice. I mean, I just want to know, having an Obama moment with the fly here, I just want to know, and if it's not sure, it's not certain, but we're running out of time.
Right.
And that's why I wanted
Why
to get
does
a
the town, I
waiver.
have a question, why does the town board have to be involved in a private and fund?
I don't think we can. If they can't put in writing what they're going to provide, then I think we stand back and say it's an option or not. And
Isn't
if
Peter
we decline
doing
it-
a per price, a tree is gonna be a certain price and how many we need, and we find that we can't do all of those trees in that, say he has 6 trees at, I don't know what trees cost, but.
Right,
And
it's
we can't do
$700
6
for-
trees
right, 9.
because we want to spread out the trees all over town. That's where I thought, the Friends of Amenia were coming in to put in that extra tree in someone's yard or something that we couldn't have in the bid specs.
The grant people said it would probably be easiest if we did not mix the two.
But
But we
if he
can leave
calls
it
for
in.
certain trees, and we can only afford 4 of them, and he called for 6, 2 trees come from Friends of Amenia and they go on someone's private property. That was my understanding. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, that was the original scenario, Darlene, yes, from the day we walked out there. That's
Yeah.
a month or 2 ago. Since then, I was told that this Friends of Amenia money would be best spent, and it was for the center of the hamlets. It was to,
Right, it would be on the main street.
and enhance the hamlet. So if we were going to spend all that $9 grand between here and here, between Mechanic and Route 22 on Main Street, there was no point in you having any trees in the bid. That whole line item in Peter Karras' bid, that you could just take that out of that, and that's what the Friends of Amenia funds would pay for.
Is that what they want?
That's what. Well, that's
But there
that's
has
what
to
I
be-
thought I was told.
there has
Maybe
to
I'm
be-
going senile, but that's what I thought I was told.
But Peter has submitted this plan with trees in it. So the state is expecting some trees to be planted under this grant.
Well, the
Right.
scope of work has not been accepted. And it's, in my conversation with Crystal, she said it's fine to leave it in. And if you don't have enough money, as Peter suggests that it's likely we won't, then we can take that out and allow Friends of Amenia to come in at whenever they want and plant out the plantings to the degree that they want. That leaves you the open door to do as much of Peter's job as you want to, or that we can or can't afford. So that you don't fall under the low bidding and all of those responsibilities. Because that means contracts, you know.
Isn't that reasonable, Kevin, or not?
Okay, my idea is just, my problem is moving goalposts. I thought from meetings that we've had with people from Friends of Amenia that all the trees were going to be put here. So I started thinking that's where we were going to go. So they're not going to be out at Five Hamlets. It's what you said sounds nice, but it leaves it completely open-ended, meaning I still don't know what to do. I want to discharge my fiduciary duty. I want to spend this money. I want to spend it in the right way.
Right.
And if I don't know, just like you guys are up against a deadline, if you're going to have me do this, we have to do it now. I have to start getting the Form E, and will give me, put it on a clipboard, knock on people's doors, and I'll be lucky if I'm able to do it right out. I thought it'd be following Peter Karras. I thought that's what we discussed. Vicki, you didn't want the outer hamlets done. So if we're not going to put them in the outer hamlets, we're going to put them here. If we're going to put them here, then why do you need Peter Karras to spend a penny on trees? And I thought the grant liked the idea of community participation and sort of conflating different groups, and there's support from this group, and they'll follow around and do the planting. Isn't there something about that in that whole preamble, Michael? Sorry to drag you into this.
Participation in grants.
Uh-huh.
And can't you coordinate it?
Yes,
Well,
I
if
mean,
it's
couldn't
not
it-
in writing,
if
it's not in writing, it's hard to
I got this
coordinate. So I don't know what trees we have at Pete Bailey's, when they're going to be planted. I think there's a problem with us
Can't you put a clause
digging the
in?
holes, but we can make a little, surely one of us can go out there and mark if they have the, dig. But I think something, we can't dig holes, I don't believe. That's what Peter's recommendation
fine.
is.
But according to the contractor, put a clause in.
I got the show.
Trees plastic will be donated.
My show. Yeah. I'll cover it. Thanks. Honestly, what I hear from that is I won't be planting any trees this year. So why did I order 38, 39 from Sam Bailey in May when I thought we were putting them into Five Hamlets?
I think you're all on the same page. You just want to get things done. You're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, wouldn't you rather buy, Bill, another pad, another planter? I mean, if you formally take that stuff out of the bid,
Right.
now there's another $9,000 free. How many more, no back benches that get you along the tennis court or something else?
Sure.
That's all I'm saying. And you know what? You guys decide. I don't want to decide. But when a decision's made, I want you to marry yourselves to it.
That's the Friends of Amenia. We can't touch that money.
Yeah.
That's not our obligation.
And we just can't.
I think
require it.
we're applying for the $25,000 grant. We have the $25,000 grant. We're going to bid out the trees. If it comes in at $40,000 or whatever it's going to come in, it could come in at 25. But we have to scale it back. That's when they step in.
That's
correct?
what I thought.
And
We will
plant the
always
plant.
have,
We'll always have the 25.
we will always need those trees. I
Right.
don't think that's the problem.
That's not the problem. It's a matter of just coordinating between the grant. We may not get the grant. Who knows? They may say it's not.
Right.
So.
Right. We don't need to plant
Doing the
the
best
tree,
we
just
can.
somebody's yard.
Right.
What we have.
Okay, but
I think we're all on the same page.
okay. It's just that these were going to be in the ground if I didn't have the whole problem with the declaration and getting people's approval and just running them all down. It was like trying to corral chickens.
I don't think they have it. They've never had any agreements, even with the trees that were planted in the 60s. There's no agreements.
Nothing on Mechanic Street.
Nothing on Mechanic Street. They were just
put 'em in.
the past few years.
But also, just as a backup, he should get these waivers in place.
Just
The
in
day it
case.
comes to plant these trees, and we can only plant 12 because that's all we can afford, these extra $9,000 in trees can go in some of the spots, or maybe on private property, we don't know.
So
Okay.
go ahead and get the waivers that are outlined in Peter's current
Sure. Just use those.
spec.
Yeah.
And then Ian, you can get him a waiver, something that's
I'll draft something.
One
Yeah.
waiver.
So we're not giving up trees, it's just coordinating, doing it.
Okay, no, I'm
I
not.
thought John Pitton was providing the generic language used in Wappingers.
Yeah, he was gonna bring
He
it.
was going to forward it to Ian, yeah, he was going to forward it to
Through
Mike,
Ian.
Mike was going to forward it to Ian, and just to give you a basis. Why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, I think you get it
But I would
first,
still
though.
propose that if you let all these funds do all the horticulture, because if you look at Peter Karras' bid, it's 9-ish, and we have 9-ish that can be spent on horticulture, because this money doesn't just need to be spent on trees. Actually, the grant said, amenities and trees and this. The idea of putting the two together was to get all the bang for the buck we could to really make downtown look nice. So if you take that, maybe submit the bid the way it is, and you can, or the stuff to the grant writers the way it is, and then you can take it out later, saying, well, we got somebody, if everything's a la carte the way Peter said, then take it out later. We can step in and do that, and then there's, 2 more bench pads and whatever. So maybe you should plan for 2 more pads and benches and planters. Well, I think you got enough planters, but maybe 2 more pads and benches, so that's there. Okay, so I'll get the waiver, and we're not necessarily planting all the trees, but we might plant some. You're still going to let the state do that? Is that the final synopsis? Is that the...
Well, it has to go to bid. We have to see where we are. When the contract, when it goes out to bid, whoever the contractor is with the trees will plant the trees, right?
If we can afford,
If we can afford it.
the town can afford it.
So that's where we have $25,000 to spend. Maybe 2 trees, but.
So not all, but only a portion of the 9 would be used to just fill in
No,
trees here and there?
Yeah, I would assume.
Or you might want it all?
I assume you're probably going to use it all before you're done.
Okay,
Yeah, on people's property. to
Okay, okay.
Augment what's being done.
okay, that's good, that's what I needed to hear.
Okay.
So we're still on
Yeah.
track. Thank you, thank you.
Arlene, you have something for tonight? Okay. We have the resolution, transfer of funds. Resolution number
49.
of 2013, transfer of funds, whereas the town board has authority to transfer funds when necessary and unanticipated to amend the budget, and whereas the town budget line 71451.1.0 summer rec program requires an increase in the amount of $3,500 for the purpose of personal services for counselors, and whereas the town budget line 71101.1.14 Amenia Park Recreation Director requires a decrease in the amount of $3,500. And whereas the town budget line 2089.1.0 Other Cultural and Recreation requires an increase in the amount of $1,000. Donations are received for the Dutchess County Arts Council for $900 from Marion Bianco for $100 for our dance program, and whereas the town budget line 71504.1.32 special rec facilities instructor requires an increase in the amount of $1,000 for purpose of dance instructor fees, and whereas the town budget line 81604.1.000 refuse garbage requires an increase in the amount of $88 for the purpose of refunding Royal Carding Service Company for 22 tickets at $4 per ticket, and whereas the town budget line 19004.1.49 special items contingencies requires a decrease in the amount of $88, and whereas the town budget line 71102.1.143 Amenia Park requires an increase in the amount of $17,025 for the purpose of benches and planters for Main Street, and whereas the town budget line 71101.1.40 Amenia Park Recreation Director requires a decrease in the amount of $17,025.00. And now therefore be it resolved, the town board authorizes the transfer of necessary budget lines to process the transactions. Motion made by,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Perotti?
No.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Weimer?
Yes.
Supervisor Flood?
Yeah.
Resolution number,
50.
Did everybody receive this for standard workday reporting, or did you just get that in your packet today?
Just got it today.
What's that?
I just got
All
it
right, so
today.
everybody can take a look at it, we can do this next week, next meeting.
I didn't.
All right, so that's what I saw there, I don't think everybody got it.
We have a letter from John Fenton for the William Henry's property. I'll read the letter. Special Investigation Structural Assessment Report, William Henry's parcel number 7166-00-138325, Old Route 22, Amenia, New York 12501. Town Board. Dear Town Board, on July 11th, 2013, Bill Rohde and I performed a structural inspection of a barn that was converted from an agricultural use to a human occupancy use. It is my belief that the structure is unsafe and is in need of repair so to prevent collapse from forces of nature, snow loads, high winds, live loads, etc. The site and structure is in violation of numerous town, Department of Health, Zoning, and Building codes and requires your immediate attention. To reiterate, Mr. Rohde's primary areas of concern read as follows. First floor framing, beams, and flooring is soft and rotted and is in need of replacing. 2, column footings, undersized support columns on inadequate footings. Framing anchorage. Exterior frame walls are rotted and deterioration located at foundation. Anchorage must be inspected and signed off from a third-party engineer to determine wind load resistance. Mr. Henry will be required to hire his own engineer to address our concerns and provide us with a plan to remediate the violations, pull a permit, and make repairs. It is my opinion that the barn is dangerous to public health, is unfit for the purpose it is being used for. I request the Town Board consider my report, make a resolution, and classify the building as unsafe and dangerous. I'm also requesting that you order the owner to have the building evacuated of all occupants and make repairs within 30 days. Presently, there's been a violation, notice of violation of order remedy served upon Mr. Henry for the prohibited use of the property. Mr. Henry's deadline to comply is on August 1st, 2013. He is required to seek approval from the Town Board to allow him to use the land in the capacity he is using it by special permit. Please consider this my investigation and report, which is required according to section 44-4 of Amenia's Code. John Fenton, Code Enforcement Officer. There is a report from Rohde. Wilford A. Rohde, P.E., who's one of our town inspectors or engineers. So we can do this resolution now? What you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay. Resolution number
50.
of 2013, resolution determining barn on William Henry property is unsafe and dangerous and ordering its repair. At the regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Amenia, held at the Amenia Town Hall on the 25th day of July 2013, 7 p.m. Supervisor Flood, seconded by
I second.
Victoria Perotti, moved the following resolution to wit, whereas the Town Board is in receipt of and has received the investigation and structural assessment report submitted by the Town Building Inspector John Fenton regarding the inspection conducted by Mr. Fenton and the Town Engineer William Rohde on July 11, 2013, of a barn located on the property owned by William Henry on Amenia-Wasaik Road, Dutchess County, Route 81, in the town and designated by tax parcel number 7166-00-138325 Henry property. And whereas the building inspector report references a separate report prepared by town engineer William Rohde, and whereas in the building inspector report, Mr. Fenton concludes based on his observations made during the inspection, as well as the conclusions made by Mr. Rodian's report, the barn located on the Henry property is unsafe and dangerous and is in need of repair to prevent collapse from forces of nature, such as snow loads, high winds, and wind loads, and live loads. And whereas Mr. Fenton also states in the building inspector report that the Henry property is in violation of numerous town of Amenia Department of Health and New York State zoning and building codes and requires immediate attention. And whereas pursuant to section 44-5 of the Amenia Town Code, the town board has the authority to determine that the building located in the town is unsafe and dangerous in order to repair the building. If the building can be safely repaired, in further order that a notice be served on the owner of the building directing the repair of the building in order to eliminate the unsafe and dangerous conditions. And whereas the town board now wishes to issue such an order and provide notice of the order in accordance with sections 44-5 and 44-6 of the Amenia Town Code, and whereas section 44-6 of the town code requires the town board to hold a hearing in relation to such dangerous, unsafe building not less than 5 business days from the date of service of this notice, and now therefore be resolved that the building inspector report submitted warrants by the determination by the town board that the barn located on the Henry property referred to in this building inspector report is unsafe and dangerous. Be it further resolved that the town board hereby orders William Henry to perform all necessary repairs to eliminate the unsafe and dangerous condition of the barn referred to in the building inspector report located on this property on Amenia Wasake Road, and be it further resolved that the town board hereby orders that a notice in the form attached hereto be served on William Henry in accordance with the section 44-7 of the Amenia Town Code, and be it further resolved that the hearing in relation to the unsafe and dangerous condition of the barn on the Henry property shall be held on August 23rd at 7 p.m., okay? That's Town Hall, Town of Amenia, Route 9, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, 12501.
Supervisor Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Brody?
Yes.
Councilwoman Reamer?
Yes.
So, Ian, what happens now with this?
You've got to serve the notice on Mr. Henry.
Okay.
And there's provision in the town code for the method of service. You can hand deliver it to him. I think there's the allowance for substituted service, so if he's not there, you could leave it with somebody and then mail it. I'll talk to John Fenton, who's probably the person that you would want to serve the notice, and I can talk to John about doing it.
And that goes out by tomorrow, within the 5 days?
Well, it's supposed to be within 5 days of the hearing, which, so that would be August 18th. The way it's written, for whatever reason, you're supposed to give that shorter window.
Okay.
And so you could just serve it on the 18th, that would be sufficient.
Everybody got a copy of this report, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
You want to put that in the town clerk's office?
I have a-
You have one?
Is that, it's original?
Huh?
Is it original signed?
Well, all we got from him was a, no, we don't have it.
Then I have a copy as well.
Okay. This Willow Lane thing, you want to do this now?
Sure. I just want, the time of the hearing was, you said 7 o'clock?
This is number 51, correct?
Correct.
Of 2013, authorizing final payment on Willow Lane Drainage Project and approving change order excuse me, requirement of performance bond. At a meeting of the town board, Town of Amenia, held at the Amenia Town Hall on the 25th day of July 23rd, 2013, at 7 p.m., Town Supervisor William Flood called the meeting to order, and seconded by someone.
Second.
Councilman moved to Whereas the town, the Amenia town has entered into a contract with Thomas Gleason, Inc. to perform certain water drainage improvement work on Willow Lane in the town of Amenia, Willow Lane project. Whereas the original contract price for the services provided by Gleason is $88,950. And whereas the town board believes that Gleason has not yet signed the original contract, and whereas the town board previously approved by resolution 3 change orders for additional work not included in the original contract in a total amount of $18,067, and whereas the approval of 3 change orders in the amount of $18,067 increased the contract price to $107,017, and whereas Gleason presented the town board with a request for partial payment for work completed in the amount of $99,260.60, which sum includes payment for 3 change orders in the amount of $18,067, but excludes payment for any work performed on the portion of the project on the property owned by Vaughn and Catherine Slater. A copy of the request for partial payment with supporting documentation is attached here too, and whereas as means of resolving a dispute over the work performed by Gleason on the property owned by Vaughn and Catherine Slater, Gleason has agreed to accept the sum of $99,260.60 as full payment for the work he performed for the Willow Lane project. And whereas the town board has agreed to resolve the dispute by paying Gleason a sum of $99,260.60 as full payment for the work he performed for the Willow Lane project, contingent on Gleason signing the contract documents and performing the additional landscape work he agreed to perform on the Slater property, or providing the town with an acceptable credit from the final payment to adequately cover the cost of the additional landscaping work. And whereas Gleason has requested a change order to excuse the requirement in the contract that he obtained a performance bond, and whereas it would be difficult, if not impossible, for Gleason to obtain a performance bond at this point because the work has already been performed, and the town board has determined that the performance bond is no longer necessary since Gleason will not be performing any additional work for Willow Lane project. And whereas the request for partial payment in the amount of $99,260.60 represents a payment for all the work required to be performed by Gleason for the Willow Lane project, plus the work included in the change orders, and specifically excludes the portion of the Willow Lane project involving the installation of drainage pipe on the property owned by William and Catherine Slater, located on 56 Willow Lane in the town of Amenia. And whereas the engineer for the town, Daniel Wheeler, PE, has verified and reported to the town board that Gleason has satisfactorily completed all the work on the Willow Lane project for which payment is requested. And whereas the town board has determined that the amount of the payment requested by Gleason accurately represents the payment due for services performed by Gleason under the original contract and change orders excluding the work performed on the Slater property. And whereas the town board has determined that it's in the best interest of the town to approve the change order excusing the requirement in the original contract that Gleason obtain a performance bond and authorize final payment to Gleason in the amount of $99,260.60. And whereas the approval of the change order in the authorization of the final payment on the construction project is a type 2 action under the New York State Environmental Quality Act, and therefore not subject to seeker review. And now therefore it is hereby resolved that the town board approves a change order excusing the requirement that Gleason obtain a performance bond in the form to be prepared by the town engineer and approved by the attorney for the town, and where it is hereby further resolved that the town board hereby approves and authorizes the payment to Gleason in the amount of $99,260.60 representing final payment to Gleason for the Willow Lane project, specifically excluding payment for any work performed by Gleason on the Slater property, such payment being specifically contingent on Gleason signing the original contract and all change orders, and 2, Gleason completing the additional landscape work on the Slater property to restore Slater property to the condition it was in prior to Gleason installing the pipe on that property, or Gleason providing the property to town with a credit from his final payment in amount sufficient to pay for additional landscape work on the Slater property to restore the Slater property to the condition that it was prior to Gleason installing the pipe on that property. I have a question. Has anyone gotten a bid as to what that's going to cost?
There were, the landscaping work on Slater is going to cost? No, I talked to his attorney today, and he's gonna get me either a list of the work that needs to be done, and we can get prices for that, or an estimate in dollar terms. So hopefully I should have that sometime next week.
Okay. Everybody comfortable with this?
We need to move this along.
Supervisor Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Prody?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Reamer.
Yes.
That's all the resolutions, I think, right? Are we done? We're done?
No.
There's one regarding oil.
Oh. Resolution number 52, designating Councilman Hitzelberger to appear and decide FOIL appeal to the Amenia Town Board. The regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Amenia held at the Amenia Town. You know what, should I read this thing or somebody else read this?
I'll be happy to read it.
Read it. Could you read it?
At the regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Amenia held at the Amenia Town Hall on the 25th day of July 2013 at 7:00 p.m., Town Supervisor William Flood called the meeting to order, and Councilwoman Reamer made the orders, made the motion, and it was seconded by Councilwoman Doyle. They introduced the following resolution to wit. Whereas pursuant to Section 89(4)(a) of the New York Public Officers Law, the governing body of a municipality has the authority to designate any individual to hear and respond to appeals of the denial of access to a record of the town. And whereas the town board is in receipt of an appeal of the denial of access to a record of the town from Cheryl Morse dated July 5th, 2013, but received by the town board on July 23rd, 2013, and whereas the town board now wishes to designate Councilwoman Gretchen Hitzelberger to hear and respond to the FOIL appeal made by Cheryl Morse, and whereas the designation by the town board of an individual to hear and respond to a FOIL appeal is a type 2 action under SECRA and is therefore not subject to environmental review. And now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby designates Councilwoman Gretchen Hitzelberger to hear and consider the FOIL appeal of Cheryl Morse dated May 9th, 2013, and authorizes Councilwoman Hitzelberger to respond to such FOIL appeal on behalf of the town board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. The foregoing resolution was voted upon with all councilmen voting as follows.
Supervisor Flood?
I'll abstain.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes?
Councilwoman Prody?
Yes.
Councilwoman Reamer?
Yes.
Okay, mileage report.
Okay, you guys should have all gotten a copy of the mileage report form that we're
Yes.
proposing be used by all town, anyone who needs a reimbursement for mileage, basically from the town, would use the report. We just wanted to know if that was okay to go ahead and put that into practice, or if there were any questions about it.
I would make a motion that we adopt the report log, the mileage report log as provided by Gretchen Hitzelberger, that is available in digital form, readily available to all, and that it be included on the town website for easy downloading by town officials and those who are able to get reimbursed for mileage.
I would second that, but I do have a question.
Sure.
How do they have to sign this, and how does that happen? They physically have to produce a hard copy to, I mean, it's digitally
Well, if you're
available?
sending it from your town email account, that's essentially a signature. So that would be acceptable too.
Oh, okay.
because according to the acceptable usage policy, you're the only one who's allowed to use your town account. So if it comes from your town account, it's coming from you.
Okay.
So that's
Okay, so
a
that-
speedy way of getting things
Okay.
done. And the other thing is, I did make sure, because I know like John travels around a lot, uses his iPad for everything. It does work on the iPad. So it's mobile enough to be used for that too.
But they can submit hard copy
Oh,
and
absolutely.
physically write it in as well. So there's more options.
Yeah.
This gives them more
I was
options.
just
Whichever way they
curious
wanna
how
do
that-
it.
how it went. Okay.
But it gives us what we need, which is a check and balance and an audit trail for mileage. So
I don't have it, so are you calling it a report? Is it on the computer? What?
It's a log. I
it's a
think
log.
That has to be filed with the town clerk's office also, I believe, right? I would assume. Any money that's being, right, that's.
Would it go,
Vouchers
is it
in?
part, so it's not part of a voucher? I didn't get the. I don't-
Memo? You didn't
So
get
I
the
don't know
Right.
what we're,
I'll
Because
forward it
we
to you
hadn't-
tomorrow.
It's gonna be part of a voucher,
okay.
so it's gonna have to go to your office.
Yeah.
So they would print it out along with the voucher?
Correct.
They would submit it?
Right.
So it doesn't,
So it has to go to both
Online.
offices, or
Okay.
whatever.
I
Yeah.
think it should be
I
put
just
online.
thought we'd find out whether or not we wanted to use it before I wasted your time with it, that's all.
thank you.
Okay. Board, board.
So, no, we have nothing to vote. Councilwoman Reamer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brody,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hetzelberger,
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle,
Yes.
and Supervisor Clegg.
Yes. Purchase order report.
Okay, I've been working with Sherry regarding just following up on all the purchase orders. So we could tell that things that were ordered, who approved them, you know, if they were denied or whatever, and whether or not the actual products came in. So we would have a report at a glance. So I've got, well, I've only got one copy, unfortunately, but if you guys want to take a look at that. Basically, it goes through every single purchase order that's been put through the system since the beginning of the year and what was received. It allows us, again, that check and balance of, was it signed off on by that department head? You know, did it receive the proper approvals? Did it get stuck or forgotten somewhere in the system? So we can get a better sense of the nickel and diming that sometimes this can do. So it's just, I thought, a very handy tool to have. And what it also does is it opens up a discussion if there's something that, you know, one department head said, yes, I'd like to order it. And then the board says, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to place that order for you. It gives them a basis of discussion so they can have the conversation and come to an understanding of why that particular decision was made, you know, and hopefully have just a tool for communications as well. So if you'd like, we can have this prepared monthly for the business meetings to review, or
Would it be helpful to have it connected to a line that it would be charged to?
we could do that.
Isn't that, those aren't lines?
Oh, yeah, she did put the lines in.
I think there is a
I didn't
reference.
see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
'cause,
And I
yeah,
think
that's-
also, you know, the
that's
state,
a-
we've had a state auditor here for a few days.
Yeah.
One of the things that came up was the POs, that if that money is allocated, it has to be set aside.
Right.
So once a PO is issued, that money is done. You can't, it's coming out, it comes out of the budget. You can't be,
So it's encumbered.
it's encumbered.
Once-
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's what has to be done. That follows, that has to start. She's going to send us the stuff, but that stuff we have to start right away. That's one of the things that she recommended that we do.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you can't just, we were talking about this with the water, that you can't just summarily order an emergency backup when it needs to have an amount, or a generic amount assigned to it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And
A description.
every single
amount.
thing, because this
Yeah.
also goes to our inventory, you know, and which gets into depreciation and
I
everything.
don't know that we have an up-to-date inventory.
Well, we don't, but
we
we
do
have
need
to
one.
start somewhere.
Yeah.
And,
We do have some of the stuff done by the insurance company, so
Mhm.
Yeah.
some of it is done, but
Right.
like, I don't know if you bought new chairs when you moved in, they probably weren't added, I don't know. And all the computers and stuff were done, that was done, so all this stuff.
And the way I
that's-
hit it was going through the computers, because I've been doing all the IT audit stuff, and the physical inventory falls into that.
Okay.
And
that's a big
everything,
part.
and so that's, I mean, it just all
Handling.
kind of comes together in that area, and that's why I'm hitting these internal office policies and
Policies,
procedures.
So you envision us going over this monthly or having it available to the board?
Having it available.
Right.
Well, let me add one more thing here. I'll start my report a little bit earlier. We can no longer do the vouchers like this.
Oh,
We have to meet before the meeting. The vouchers have to be gone over by the board, whatever committees or whatever sections you oversee the town has to be done before the meeting.
okay.
And then, or else we cannot sign them at the meeting.
So whatever committee we sit on, we would review those
Yeah.
particular
Before the
groups
meetings.
of
Right.
vouchers.
Right.
So that would be broken out separately
have to break
in
it out.
enhancement,
Yeah.
CAC,
Mhm.
water.
It's broken out by general highway and water. It's broken
Now.
out.
Right, but now,
Right.
but then I
We
think
have
it
to
has
break
to
it
be
down
broken out a
further.
little bit better. There's some suggestions that she had today that has to be done.
And this is going to help you track that for each individual committee, because you can also get it, sorted out by
Well, it's procedural. We haven't been doing it right.
each department as necessary for the ones that you're responsible for reviewing.
Per month, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Email US, is it USPS? United States Postal Service consent agreement.
Okay. That's everyone who's affiliated with the town. Dawn Marie's favorite line, she knows she's going to have to come and get a list of everybody. Ian was kind enough to go over and create for us the agreement from everyone that they will either be communicated with from the town. Communication will go to them through email or through the postal service. So people who choose to have email communications only from the town, that's great. We'll have their postal service address as a backup. People who choose to have postal service communications only through the town, we will be able to turn off and archive out that email account, because they aren't using it. It's a security hole for us. And so whenever we need to get a communication out, we're going through a channel that they have said, this is going to work best for me, because we want to work with people the way they work, especially when it comes to our volunteers. And they'll have agreed that that's the way they want us to communicate with them. So Ian has worked out those two documents, if you guys are amenable to that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So then you keep a record of who
We're
gets
talking about
which.
the town roster, or we're talking about all persons? Like, what, I'm sorry, because I'm not aware.
Anybody who's on any committee
Just
or
the
any
committee, similar to
or
our
any
email.
employment, yeah, the
Okay.
same subset of people again. So so we're all good with using that. So Dawn Marie and another, I'm sorry, but
No, if
another.
I had it, I wouldn't be sitting here with such a,
Okay.
lights in the deer face look going, I don't know what you're talking about. So
Okay.
I'd be more willing in saying yes if I knew before the meeting.
Okay. So that was,
I don't have that consent.
I
email.
can send that to you.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to spend any time on it if we weren't going to be doing it, because this week we're going through audit and I know how busy you are. So
Okay.
that was that. Thank you so much.
Town board comments?
I just have some comments from the recreation meeting. John McCurdle has addressed the electrical problems at Beekman Park, and he gave us pictures, after pictures. We already had before pictures, a lot of wiring that needed to be repaired. And each plug now, excuse me, goes back to the panel, and he's changed a lot of the outlets to GFI. And in the concession stand, he changed a lot of the outlets from 2 to 4, so that she would have more places to plug in the equipment there. The other things we're looking to do is that the lights are continually being left on in the bathrooms and the equipment room. So we're looking to put a motion detector in those to save on electricity. The other thing we're looking to do to get the paper towels out of the bathrooms, which ended up in the septic when we had it pumped, is to, we're having electric lines put in for hand dryers. And John is going to look for the least expensive ones he can find. In addition, we did...
The only thing I can say is that he put one in here and it doesn't work. You know, the cheap is not the greatest for those things.
Well, he didn't say cheap, he said the mid-price.
Okay. You gotta make sure they work.
Weebatuck School has asked to use Beekman Park fields for their modified soccer because they're still having some septic problems with their fields. They have talked to the soccer coaches, and that's all been worked out. They'll be down there at the end of September into October. Someone is also interested in offering a senior exercise program at the town hall, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 10, but we don't have a start date yet, and I'll announce the start date. The subcommittee of the Recreation Commission, who's doing an analysis of the fields and everything at Beekman Park, is going to be taking soil samples so that they can see which one of the fields needs more lawn fertilizer. And they're also on the Little League field. They need a new pitcher mound, and they're going to, and Sean is going to build that with the existing materials that we have at the park. The Town of Amenia Senior Trip, it's the AquaTurf Club, the Dave Colucci Show. Let the Good Times Roll, Tuesday, August 20th, 2013, from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Be 8:30 pickup at Masonic Temple, Dover Plains, 8:45 pickup at Tally Ho, Dover Plains, and 9 a.m. pickup at Freshtown, Amenia. It's an incredible music variety show featuring some of the greatest singers and songs of all time, from the swinging days of Sinatra to the golden oldies of the 50s and 60s, along with some classic country favorites. Enjoy this spectacular show. The songs will be performed by the very talented Dave Colucci. Included is a family-style luncheon with soup, pasta, chicken, baked ham, vegetable, potato dessert, coffee, and donuts. There'll be door prizes, a complimentary beverage, and the cost is $40 per person. And please contact Charlene Pollinger at 373-9650 or me at 373-7181. The Town of Amenia Senior Picnic is closed. We have 160 signed up. It'll be Saturday, August 10th from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And that's all I have.
Does anyone know who did the work at the Beekman Park?
For
The
what?
electrical work?
No, I have no idea. But I think what happened with a lot of the electrical problems, there was a new roof put on.
Yeah, but from what I understand from talking to Burnhoff is that the place was a disaster.
Well, just based on the pictures.
Yeah, the pictures are horrible.
Yeah.
Does anybody oversee any of that stuff that gets done down there? No one.
Overseas.
Like the construction or whatever people are going to do? Or, is it volunteers that have done the work that are
I
there?
think it was volunteers, from what I understood. I don't know.
I don't know
We
because
sort of have to get a handle on it, I don't mind, if people are gonna work, it's gotta
Sherry
be
can
done.
go through the system and see if there were any payments made. I think she has records going back.
But this was way back, this work.
Yeah,
To
we always use
2000s.
volunteers.
It
We
was
never had
way
any
back.
budget for anything, so.
Okay.
I mean, the pit at the Fair Fountain Square was way out of compliance, filled with, it was not good. We finally brought that up to code. I think,
Mark
it's
is
just the way.
brave for going down
Yeah,
there.
volunteers just go and do what they know how to do. And so now we're slowly but surely bringing everything up to code as we find disasters, potential disasters.
Brian?
I don't have anything.
Since we went ahead and we're going forward with public law number 2 regarding Mechanic Street, I drafted up a letter to send to Weebatuck, as we discussed during the meeting, to give them a heads up that we're requesting them to move the parking, the bus stop forward to 101 feet, which is the nose of a southbound bus would be at the second telephone pole. So I just wanted to know if you guys wanted to send it, I could read it, or we could.
I think you should read it.
Dear Superintendent Grotto, I'm writing to you on behalf of the town board. The town board wishes to express its gratitude to you and members of the Weebatuck community for coming forward with your concerns regarding road safety in the area of the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343. It was so helpful and informative to have your input regarding the matter before the board, and we want you to know that the concerns you and other members of the Weebatuck community expressed were given serious consideration as the board evaluated the issue at hand and made its determination. While the actual public law has specific and timed processes to go through prior to being enacted, we felt it would be best to reach out to you in advance to allow you and your bus drivers sufficient time to plan for the upcoming changes at the intersection prior to your school year commencing. As of the writing of this letter, the town board will begin the process of instituting a no parking zone on the east side of Mechanic Street and allowing 1 parking space on the west side of Mechanic Street starting 40 feet south of the stop sign. As a result of these changes and the study that has occurred, the town board would strongly recommend that the Weebatuck bus routes make every effort to ensure that no bus stops in either direction on Mechanic Street closer than 101 feet to the intersection. For a southbound bus, this would place the nose of the bus at the second telephone pole on Mechanic Street. We hope that by giving this advance notice to you, the school district will have ample time to implement any changes necessary to continue ensuring the ongoing safety of the children of our community. So,
I think that encompasses what we talked about that day.
yeah. Because I know they have to plan in advance, and I don't
Yeah,
want them to be caught unawares.
I think it sounds good.
So we can go ahead and send this, or Victoria, did you have changes or adds? No? Vicki?
Well, we can send it. I said we can go ahead and send it.
Okay.
We just say would strongly recommend. I think that's,
Yeah.
that's fine language. We can't say that they have to do it.
Exactly.
It's just that that's what we
This is-
envisioned, that this would be the safest.
And it is, I mean, when I believe the gentleman's name was
Bill?
Jerry, who came here.
Oh, Jerry, that's right, the head of the
Yeah,
school
and,
bus.
and, you know, and Darlene, you brought all the specs, we went through it again and again, so I just really wanted to.
Yeah,
Formalize
bus-
it.
Yeah, bus
Yeah.
making that turn can't be on the proper side of the road until that
Exactly.
footage. Otherwise, they're in the middle of the road when they make that turn, so, I mean, that's,
Okay, so, Bill, we just need you to sign that for the board. Thank you. For our emergency public service announcement, because I was focused on emergencies this week, I am doing tips for cell phone usage during emergencies. This is, for example, if we have a storm and we lose power, we would recommend that you remove your battery when your phone is not in use. because even if your phone is turned off, your battery is still providing a trickle charge of energy to the phone. So if you remove your battery, you're going to be able to extend the battery life. Place voice calls only when necessary. Send brief text messages rather than voice calls. This is easier than reading backwards. Maintain a list of emergency numbers for police, fire, power, insurance agents, family, friends, and co-workers, and program them into your phone before an emergency occurs. Distribute wireless phone numbers to family members and friends. Keep your phone, batteries, chargers, and other equipment in a dry, accessible location. Charge your mobile phone in your car during power outages. Turn off your Bluetooth and other services and set your backlight down to a minimum level to conserve battery life. When the battery is extremely low, turn the phone off unless it's in use. Use the camera on your phone to document damage to your personal property, home, or business, and post pictures to social media, and send your pictures to insurance agents and other contacts after the emergency situation has subsided to help conserve your battery life and the network. So one thing that the town did do when we had that horrible snowstorm that locked us down for, what was it, a week? When the cell phone tower contracts came up and were redone, they extended the generator life on the cell phone tower. So you're going to have the opportunity to call out more on your cell phone. So now you want to make sure that the battery life on your cell phone is going to last during that opportunity. Which also brought us to, I know not everybody made the emergency meeting. So this was based on the email and UPS. It opened the door into the emergency, what is it? Is it emergency committee or emergency?
Response committee.
Emergency response committee. So I met with them, and we spoke about doing updates on the web for emergency readiness. And basically we have 6 communication paths that are through technology, which is the website, email, texting, telephone, television, and of course a lawn sign on the front lawn, the low-tech approach. And I just wanted to point out that each one of these methods of communicating in the time of an emergency has to stand alone, but they all have to operate jointly. And what we're going to end up working on is to get emergency messages. We did have an email outage just, I think it was a week ago, where the town was able to receive emails, but some of the members of the town were unable to send. So we followed the beginnings of a procedure, which was we posted up on the website that there was a problem with the system, what the problem was, and when the problem we thought would be resolved. And then once it was resolved, we posted that the problem had been resolved, and if people were still having problems with their town email accounts, where they should go to get assistance with that. And also, so the community, if anybody was trying to send an email during that time, if it was urgent, they would see, hey, the email's out, maybe I should use a phone, or hey, I can just wait for the email response. So that's just like a little tiny emergency. It isn't a life-threatening kind of moment, but we need to have the basis of the communication structure built out. So, and it has to be easily accessible and usable by everybody who's involved with this. Otherwise, when we do end up with the larger emergencies, we could be in trouble, and I don't want that. So that's why I've kind of focused on it. But we'll work on getting up a system where you can, as a town resident, sign up for email notifications or texting or voice calls during emergencies. That type of broadcast system. There are some parts of it around town, and we'll just start building and putting together the system, and you'll have the option to sign up for it if you'd like. Was there anything you wanted to add, Victoria, because you were there, or Bill? Okay.
No, I think, some of the problems we had with the last storm are issues for the county.
Yeah.
The phones went down. We had no communication with the county for hours and hours and hours. Other than I spoke to County Executive Molinaro, he called me directly and we talked on our cell phones. That's the only communication we had through the whole thing. So at this point, there's some serious issues that they have to deal with if it's a storm that magnitude where it takes the towers down. We have no way of reaching them. Local fire departments were on their own, basically. They had no communication at all. So there are some issues that we have to deal with it. So we'll see what happens. The 911 shut down, basically.
And that was all I had. Thank you.
I think we need an alternative date to serve the notice to Bill Henry on the order to repair his barn, because the 18th is Sunday, Sunday the 18th, so could we move that forward to the 16th? You said it needs to be 5 days, but can it be earlier than 5 days?
It has to be within 5 days, so it can be later. I'll check the...
Oh, so maybe on Monday the 19th?
Correct.
Would work? Okay. So I would suggest that we go with Monday the 19th.
Can I just ask a question
Is it
before
5 to
we're on
12?
that again?
Yeah.
They were in that building again today. They were there. I drove by there with people there. So would they get this, that ends that, other than if they're going to do repairs on that building? And they have to get it, how does that
Here.
work with the permits and so on and so forth?
Well, there are two separate issues. One is the safety of the building, of the structure itself, and that's what the resolution tonight did. You issued an order that he's got to do certain things to get the building to be safe again. On top of that, there are other zoning violations, building code violations, things like that John Fenn has already issued violation notices for. So.
Right. I talked to John today. He has not heard from him, so we'll see where we are with this thing.
You've authorized John to prosecute
Yeah.
Bill Henry for the zoning violations, and John, as far as I know, is going forward with that.
Yeah.
If there's still people in the building, that's a further violation. They do that to their own detriment.
Well, I just want the public to know that we're working on this thing,
Yeah.
so that's moving forward. I'm sorry, Vicki.
That's all right. And then, I don't know if you're all ready, but I haven't yet done the minutes from 6/27, 7/2, and 7/9, 2013 minutes. If we could do that at the next town board meeting, a special meeting on the Tuesday, the 27th. Is that right? I'm sorry, I'm looking at August. Tuesday, the 30th at 8 o'clock. Maybe we could be ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you all are read it, but I needed a little bit more time.
I'll wait.
Okay. So I'm going to have Peter boil down the bid announcement, and then have him, Ian, go over it, and the town board on Tuesday as well, to go over the bid announcement, trying to get it down from a page and 3/4
The legal
to a
notice.
little less for the streetscape grant, right? Okay, so make sure I was right on that.
Yeah, because that's really 2 pages. It's a bit much.
There is an Arm in the Sea Theater that's coming to, sorry to mention it, but it's Carey Institute in Millbrook, but it's a great option. It's free. It's Sunday, July 28th. They're going to build a big outdoor stage. There's a 50% chance of showers, so it might be relocated, probably in the auditorium, but if not, it should be a great day for a picnic out on the former Gifford lawn, and it's a phenomenal theater company. I'm mentioning it because I know it's got a really great reputation, and I think it will be enjoyable for all levels of the family. They're going to put on a program called The City That Drinks the Mountain Sky, and it's going to be through theater, through puppetry, huge puppets, a huge stage that they build on site. It'll go over New York City's system of aqueducts and reservoirs that provide mountain water from the Catskills to 9 million downstate residents. And you can learn how city managers and upstate residents have struggled over and worked to protect this freshwater treasure. So that is at 4 o'clock on Sunday, July 28th. It's free and open to the public. Bring a lawn chair if you are going to attend. There are no reservations needed. I am continuing to be concerned about getting our grants done on time, in a timely fashion. And I know we had thought about adding some staffing to it. I know we don't have full-time help from, Mike just doesn't have the time. It's not that he can't do it, he can do it, he can do a great job. If I had free time, I would volunteer and help him, because I think that works very, very well. But I think we're missing very important opportunities. I think he's out there, he knows what's out there, but I would welcome adding some more staffing. I don't know if Karen or anybody here at the town hall can, on paid time, work with him, get some work done. Unless a volunteer steps up and has a lot of time to apply for these grants, I know they cannot be done on the 1 day off or 2 days off that he has. He cannot do all that we have encouraged him to do unless he's staying up all night. I know what it takes to administer and run with these grants, and I think it needs some auxiliary assistance.
Well, he's I put a desk upstairs for him. We put in the Wi-Fi for him so that he could work here. He's promised to work here for a year.
Right, but we haven't changed the paradigm. I think the reality is 1 day a week he has a life to live, and he has laundry to do. He has things that he has to do. So I think that if we could revisit that at some point.
So if there's anybody out there in TV land that wants to volunteer to help write grants and look at the grants, we will gladly take your applications and put you to work. There is
why don't we put
something on a service announcement,
service announcement on TV,
I know Tanya
on
would
the
do it, but she wants more
website,
money.
requesting
So, but they won't
a
do it that way.
volunteer, which is unpaid, to assist with grants.
Well, there is money available for some of them. Some of the grants are paid. There is money in the grant to pay them.
For some, but not
For
for
some,
all.
not for all.
And not for ones that you don't have yet.
Correct.
So,
But I think there's money in the line that
Right,
has
there is
been
some money, right,
unused
that's
as a
unused to
result
pay.
of him not having the time to put in that
let's
we had
see if
hoped
there's
for.
any interest, and then take it from there. Let's take this small step
Right.
forward with it
See if
instead of
anybody comes
just talking. Please. And I think it's a good idea.
That's all I have.
As I said before, we did have an order here from the controller's office for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
She'll be back August 12th.
Nah, I don't think she's coming back. She said she's coming back one more day because her system crashed. There's some procedural stuff that they've recommended that we do, that we have to change. Fiscally and financially, we're in good shape. The town is, they look at where we are, cash on hand, if there's an emergency and so on and so forth, what we have. Budget, there are some concerns about the budget that we are using our fund balance to offset our budget lines, and that we're still raising the taxes. So we have to get that. We're in better shape this year than we were last year. Previous years, we were way off. We're not using a fund balance to offset the taxes.
In other words, our
we're
contingency is basically our fund balance, basically.
Right, and we're still taxing the taxpayers and not using that money. So we have to get a little bit tighter with that. There's some of the voucher stuff with the town clerk and the bookkeeper that has to be done differently. She recommended that all departments that take in money have to write a monthly report instead of just dropping the money on Sherry's desk, like the rec
department, the building department, whatever committee, whatever collects money has to be documented where that money came from, who paid it, and so on and so forth. That has to be done. Highway department, there was a few things about payroll vouchers have to be here in the town. He's agreed to do, I think, quarterly reports that have to be done. Same way with the vouchers, all the bids have to be clipped to the vouchers. So if when the voucher's paid, everybody knows that if the public wants to come in and see where the money went, that's where it is. And then she's going to send a report. She did recommend that we have a full audit, but that's not her decision. That decision will be made sometime in September or October.
By the town's
By the comptroller.
choice, or by the comptroller's office?
By the comptroller's
Albany.
office in Albany. But she said that, we're the only one where everyone's, Millerton's had one, Dover's had one, Washington's had one. I think Stanfordville, Pine Plains.
Full audits.
Full audits. So, which is not a bad thing. It is what it is. So, there was a complaint filed, from what I understand, about the moving the money from one bank to the other, which we were totally legal in doing. We met all of the criteria within our town law that we had to do. That was done. I don't know what other complaints were made, so other than that, that's the only one that she took. Basically, normal stuff. So we do have some stuff that we're working on. IT we're working on, which was good. She did recommend that we relook at our handbook because it's not correct.
The employee handbook?
Right, which I find very, very, and I told her, I said, we just spent a fortune having that thing done. I said, I can't believe that it's not compliant. There are some issues with some pay that have to be dealt with. Employees, which we'll deal with that later.
Is this resolution part of those recommendations
No.
on the hours? Okay.
No,
That just
it's just a
came up.
procedural thing that,
It's a procedural
That
thing
we
that
had
hasn't
to
been
have.
done in years.
right. So,
And the last one she found was several years ago, and it needs to be done yearly.
2010 was the last one.
Yeah,
yeah.
needs to be done every year.
So basically, it's okay. What the stuff she found is procedural. So that's all I have to report. And I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting, pay claims.
Let's second that.
Thank you.